Gang was so bold they committed their crimes knowing they were on video and even flooded social media with photos showing them with deadly weapons and wads of cash.
Tonight, the leaders of that gang sitting in prison and the agency that took them down warning others to stop the violence or suffer a similar fate.
A 3-year investigation came crashing down on the almighty Vice Lord Nation. Federal authorities announcing racketeering, gun and drug charges handed down by a grand jury against 40 members and associates. 4 are still at large. The feds say
3 dozen violent criminals are off the streets. The U.S. attorney says that they have ties to the Latin Counts gang in southwest Detroit. And as Fox News' Robin Schwartz reports, the arrests are part of a joint effort called Detroit
In the streets of Detroit for the past 4 years or so, but this morning a violent Detroit gang has been dealt a major blow.
Yeah, they're known as the Hustle Boys, and in just a few hours...
Detroit has long been a battleground for violent street gangs, each vying for control through a relentless cycle of crime, intimidation, and brutality. From the Latin Counts to the band crew, these gangs have left a trail of devastation across the city, fueling a surge in drug trafficking and other criminal activities. Through coordinated efforts like the Detroit One Initiative, law enforcement has been working tirelessly to dismantle these dangerous organizations, bringing gang members to justice and striving to restore peace to Detroit's hardest-hit neighborhoods. This overview highlights key developments in the federal crackdown on some of the city's most notorious gangs.
Right now, nearly 3 dozen violent criminals are off the streets. The U.S. attorney says that they have ties to the Latin Counts gang in southwest Detroit. And as Fox News' Robin Schwartz reports, the arrests are part of a joint effort called Detroit One.
The Big Apple Market on McGraw in southwest Detroit was the scene of in April, now connected to the Latin Counts street gang. U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid stood with Detroit's police chief and members of the state police and FBI to announce 33 indictments tied to the gang, believed to be responsible for the murder of 20-year-old Mustafa Al-Yassiri. The alleged gang members are also accused of robberies, burglaries, gun thefts, and drug sales.
In a significant development for law enforcement in Detroit, the culmination of the Detroit One Initiative has led to the final guilty plea in a series of prosecutions targeting the notorious Latin Counts street gang. Attorney Matthew Schneider announced today that the 12th and final gang member, 28-year-old Kyle Volz from Lincoln Park, has pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy in connection with the gang's criminal activities. This plea marks a pivotal moment in the federal crackdown on one of Detroit's most violent street gangs. Volz entered his guilty plea in federal court in Ann Arbor before U.S. District Judge Judith Levy, admitting to his role in the racketeering conspiracy that included attempted robbery and other violent crimes. With this plea, Volz now faces up to 30 years in prison, bringing an end to his involvement in the gang's reign of terror in southwest Detroit and the downriver communities of Lincoln Park and Ecorse. The indictment against the Latin Counts painted a grim picture of the gang's operations, which included assaults, drug trafficking, stolen firearms, and various forms of robbery. The gang, known for its ruthless use of violence, sought to control its territory through intimidation, targeting both rival gangs and innocent residents in the area. As part of his guilty plea, Volz accepted responsibility for his role in deletion of Terrence McLaren and the shooting of another victim on August 18, 2013. He also admitted to assaulting and attempting to rob a different individual on April 29, 2014. His plea follows the sentencing of 3 other Latin Counts members for their involvement in McLaren's deletion. The federal case also highlighted the role of Isidro Garza, the head of the Latin Counts in Michigan, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison earlier this year. Garza, despite being incarcerated in the Michigan Department of Corrections, continued to lead the gang, disseminating orders and maintaining control over its operations. He was already serving a lengthy sentence of 25 to 50 years for a gang-related deletion committed in 1993. Another key figure in the gang's leadership, Benjamin Badel, who served as the Minister of Information, pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy on January 29, 2018. Badel, responsible for relaying Garza's directives to lower-ranking members, faces a 10-year prison sentence.
This morning, a violent Detroit gang has been dealt a major blow.
Yeah, they're known as the Hustle Boys, and in just a few hours, they'll go before a judge.
A 4-year investigation involving state, county, and Detroit police revealed. The FBI also says that this gang was based out of a Detroit home at 7 Mile and Hoover, that the Hustle Boys formed 6 or 7 years ago. And when they started, they were promoting events at nightclubs, but they eventually started dealing drugs. Of the 10 accused gang members, 8 are in custody and face a judge in federal court today. The other 2 are expected to turn themselves in. They were all charged with conspiracy and dealing drugs.
In November 2012, a jury found Gaskin, a member of Detroit's notorious Hustle Boys gang, guilty of participating in a drug conspiracy and possessing illegal drugs with intent to distribute. His crimes didn't stop there. On Tuesday, Gaskin pleaded guilty to witness tampering, admitting he had threatened the lives of a witness, the witness's child, and the child's mother before his drug trial. For this, he received an additional 46-month sentence to be served concurrently with his 30-year drug trafficking sentence. Evidence revealed that from 2007 to 2011, Gaskin and other Hustle Boys members trafficked drugs from Detroit to Ohio and West Virginia. The gang used a house on Hamburg Street in Detroit to storing drugs and stash firearms. Their operations extended beyond Detroit, with members trading drugs for firearms, further fueling violence in the city. Gaskin and 9 others were indicted in 2011, but most of his co-defendants pleaded guilty before trial and received substantial sentences.
Your investigation came crashing down on the almighty Vice Lord nation. Federal authorities announcing racketeering, gun, and drug charges handed down by a grand jury against 40 members and associates. 4 are still at large. The feds say they've been in business for years on the streets and even inside Michigan's prisons.
Feds say the gang had several layers and names: Almighty Vice Lord Nation, Traveling Vice Lords, Insane Vice Lords. It had a structured system with commanders. Thousands of members across the nation, hundreds in Michigan. Their reach includes leaders and enforcers inside Michigan prisons.
In a joint sting, officers were able to raid 13 homes in Detroit and Chicago, one of them being on Hubble Avenue.
I think it's just guilt by association.
The person who lives there in question, alleged leader of the Michigan Vice Lords, Kevin Fordham, also known as Spaghetti. Yet his girlfriend, who did not want to be identified, is saying that's not like him at all.
I've known this man for 17 years. We raising grandbabies together. I just don't understand this. He's not that kind of guy.
However, the ATF is saying he hasn't been doing the dirty work and that it's a hierarchy structure that's kept him out of trouble all this time, at least until now.
Mr. Fordham in this gang has several layers of insulation to avoid detection from law enforcement.
In a significant crackdown on violent crime, the federal government has indicted 40 alleged members of the almighty Vice Lord Nation gang in Detroit. These individuals face charges including robbery, drug trafficking, and unlawful gun possession, and other violent crimes. The 120-page indictment reveals the gang's extensive criminal activities, which have terrorized communities across the country for decades. Among those indicted is Kevin Spaghetti Fordham, an alleged gang leader who has no prior felony convictions, a tactic used by the gang to protect its leadership. The Vice Lords, a national gang founded in Chicago, are deeply entrenched in drug trafficking and other violent crimes, with a strong presence within the Michigan Department of Corrections. As part of the operation, authorities have arrested 38 of the 40 indicted individuals and seized numerous firearms and other drugs. In a major federal crackdown, 5 members of the Young and Scandalous Street Gang have been indicted on charges including arson and racketeering and other violent crimes, exposing their decade-long reign of terror in Detroit's Brightmoor neighborhood. The indictment, unsealed on Friday, details how the gang, also known as Young and Scandalous, allegedly sought to dominate the local drug trade through violence and intimidation, leading to the deaths of at least 3 people. The indictment describes numerous violent acts by the gang, including a 2010 arson at a Marathon gas station, the 2013 deletion of TW during a robbery, and the 2015 deletion of B at the Victory Inn Motel. Prosecutors allege the gang used social media to boast about their crimes, enhancing their reputation and deterring witnesses from cooperating with law enforcement. The young and Scandalous gang's violent grip on Brightmoor has left residents living in fear, enduring frequent shootings and robberies. This indictment is part of ongoing efforts to dismantle Detroit's most dangerous gangs and restore safety to the city's neighborhoods. In a major crackdown on organized crime, a federal grand jury has indicted 8 members of a Detroit-based fraud ring known as the Free Band Gang on charges including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and aggravated identity theft. Attorney Matthew Schneider details a 3-year scheme that led to millions in losses. The defendants Treyano Adams, Anthony Adams, Devin Simmons, Atif Brown, Oda Williams, Danico Adams, Rodney Gist, and Tyan Jackson allegedly used stolen credit card information to create cloned cards. They then traveled across the U.S., targeting Walmart stores to purchase large amounts of gift cards, which they sold for cash in Michigan. One notable incident involved 2 defendants making over $100,000 in fraudulent purchases at 10 Walmart stores in just 9 hours. Attorney Schneider emphasized the group's calculated operations and Michigan's ongoing efforts to combat identity theft. Postal Inspection Service, Secret Service, and Walmart's Global Investigations team were instrumental in uncovering the full scope of the fraud.
An undercover agent from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is speaking out for the first time, revealing how the agency took down the vicious street gang in Northwest Detroit known as Band Crew. This gang was so bold they committed their crimes knowing they were on video and even flooded social media with photos showing them with deadly weapons and wads of cash.
Tonight, the leaders of that gang sitting in prison.
Looking at video of Band Crew gang members in action, a ruthless crew that ran Detroit's northwest side until the feds teamed up with local police to take them down. They specialized in taking over gas stations. A few years ago, they were so brazen, they robbed customers and shot at rival gang members, all on video. They knew surveillance cameras were rolling. They simply did not care.
To not only participate in a shooting, but then to remain at a gas station at an extended period of time after the shooting had occurred, where the gas attendant is calling 911 and they're sitting there contemplating, well, should we get a drink?
8 members of the Band Crew, a street gang in northwest Detroit, have been indicted on charges of attempted deletion, robbery, and shootings as part of the Detroit One Initiative, a collaborative effort between law enforcement and the community to reduce violent crime in the city. The indictment reveals that Band Crew, an alliance of smaller gangs like Constantly Making Hundreds, CMH, and Young and Crispy, YNC, claimed territory in northwest Detroit, using graffiti to assert their dominance. Members engaged in violent crimes, including assaults, home invasions, and robberies, to defend their turf and uphold the gang's reputation. Among those indicted are Corey DeAndre Mapp, 22, facing charges of RICO conspiracy and assault with a dangerous weapon, and Alexander Tianti Johnson, 20, charged with RICO conspiracy. The charges represent a significant step in dismantling the gang's operations and reducing violence in Detroit. The successful indictments and guilty pleas of gang members across Detroit mark a significant victory in the fight against organized crime. While the city continues to grapple with the legacy of gang violence, these law enforcement efforts have struck a critical blow to the operations of these dangerous groups. The cases discussed underscore the ongoing commitment to bringing justice to communities that have long suffered under the grip of these violent gangs. As federal and local authorities press forward, there is hope that these actions will lead to a safer, more stable future for Detroit.
Tonight about the investigation and arrest of more than a dozen biker gang members after a 13-month multi-agency investigation in Bryan County. You can see those who have been arrested in the picture here. They are all suspected members of the Outcast motorcycle gang, which has national and local chapters.
This morning, gang member roundup. 26 alleged gang members indicted following a series of crimes in the Atlanta area targeting high-profile celebrities like Mariah Carey, Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley, and Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton.
If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime to bring your violence to, you are wrong.
State officials have announced the indictments of 17 alleged gang members for crimes all over Georgia.
Yeah, Barrow County grand jury indicted the defendants last week for crimes in 10 different counties.
The state of Georgia has seen a surge in law enforcement crackdowns on violent gangs, each linked to a range of criminal activities that have plagued the city and its surrounding areas. From the 183 gangster bloods and the drug-rich gang to the Outcast motorcycle gang, these groups have left a trail of violence and fear in their wake. Through coordinated efforts, including high-profile operations and grand jury indictments, authorities have taken significant steps to dismantle these criminal enterprises, bringing charges against members involved in drug trafficking, armed robbery, and more. This overview highlights some of the most notorious gang activities in the state of Georgia, emphasizing the ongoing battle to reclaim the city's streets from these dangerous organizations.
State officials have announced the indictments of 17 alleged gang members for crimes all over Georgia.
Yeah, Barrow County grand jury indicted the defendants last week for crimes in 10 different counties.
Grand jury has indicted more than a dozen people allegedly involved in gang activity in 10 Georgia counties, including Athens, Clarke, Barrow, Chattooga, Fulton, and Gwinnett. The indictments come as part of Operation Dawnfall, an investigation by the GBI's Gang Task Force and the Georgia Department of Corrections. The indictment names 17 people alleged to be members of the gang 18 Trey Gangster Bloods and accuses them of everything from drug sales, 2 of them linked to this June 2020 arson in Lawrence County. But Carr says one of their most egregious crimes has been recruiting young children by holding seemingly family-friendly events.
They host basketball tournaments and barbecues. They do these types of things for one purpose: to recruit our young people into a life of crime and violence.
The 1-8 Trey Gangster Bloods, a subset of the United Blood Nation, emerged in the mid-1990s in the Bronx, New York, during a time of intense gang activity across the city. Named after 183rd Street, where many of its original members lived, the gang became part of the broader Bloods network that had expanded from Los Angeles to the East Coast, particularly within the prison system in urban neighborhoods. The UBN, founded in 1993 at Rikers Island, quickly spread to the streets, and various local sets, including the 183 Gangster Bloods, were formed. In a news conference at the state capitol Thursday afternoon, Attorney General Chris Carr and Governor Brian Kemp announced the indictments of more than a dozen alleged gang members. In a significant legal crackdown, a Barrow County grand jury has returned a 31-count indictment against 17 alleged members of the 1-8 Trey Gangster Bloods, including charges like drug trafficking and violations of the Georgia Street Terrorism and Prevention Act. Follows an extensive investigation dubbed Operation Dawnfall, led by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Gang Task Force and the Georgia Department of Corrections. The charges reveal the depth of criminal activity attributed to the gang, which is said to have operated across 10 Georgia counties, including Fulton, Gwinnett, and Athens, Clarke. According to Attorney General Chris Carr, the indictment alleges that these defendants engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity, aiming to illegally acquire money, weapons, and property to fuel their gang operations. One of the most shocking revelations from the investigation was the gang's use of family-friendly events like basketball tournaments and BBQs to recruit young children into their ranks. GBI Director Mike Register emphasized that these activities were a deliberate strategy to lure minors into a life of crime and violence. Additionally, the indictment highlights how the gang allegedly used social media and music videos to promote their criminal activities. Prosecutors pointed to a YouTube video from June 2019 that featured explicit lyrics glorifying violence and criminal behavior, arguing that such content is relevant evidence in the prosecution of these gang members. Despite some public criticism of using song lyrics in legal cases, authorities assert that when gang members openly broadcast their criminal acts, it becomes a crucial piece of evidence in building their case.
Now, Sandy Springs Police confirming to Channel 2 Action News that they're investigating a break-in at superstar Mariah Carey's house in North Fulton County. We flew News Chopper 2 over that property today. Channel 2 investigative reporter Justin Grace here in the studio.
Yeah, and Justin, this is the type of crime that we've been tracking since last month.
Hey, Candace, we are talking about criminals intentionally targeting celebrity homes here in Metro Atlanta. Last month, Channel 2's Mark Winnie was the first to report about Sandy Springs police investigating gangs targeting celebrities, including a Real Housewives star in Sandy Springs. Now we've learned days after our initial report, criminals hit a home owned by Mariah Carey.
This involves many crimes, an ongoing investigation, and high-profile victims. One of them, Marlo Hampton of Real Housewives of Atlanta fame, who told me she watched on her security system as armed, masked men kicked her door down, making a loud boom.
When I heard the boom, when I heard my nephew scream, and I knew that scream was a scream of fear, my heart dropped.
Real Housewives of Atlanta star Marlo Hampton says she's a real crime victim after the attempted burglary of her Sandy Springs home July 1st that police have now told her is tied to other incidents. She said she went to a panic room, called 911. The suspects who kicked her door and fled, possibly because she yelled. Sandy Springs police were there quickly, and she thanks God.
The latest investigation involves the drug-rich gang, and Willis announced today she is formally bringing RICO charges against 26 alleged gang members.
Yeah, that's right. So officials say these alleged gang members primarily targeted athletes and entertainers around Metro Atlanta, using social media to learn what they had and how to break into their home.
If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime to bring your violence to, you are wrong, and you are going to suffer consequences.
Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis on a 94-page indictment spelling out 220 charges against 26 people alleged to be involved with the drug-rich gang.
They use things like prescription bottles and money symbols, and this is in their jewelry and their tattoos, and we see that present here.
Investigators say the gang started in DeKalb County in 2016, but has branched out across Metro Atlanta, committing crimes like shootings, home invasions, and burglaries. Their 16 targets include Atlanta celebrities, athletes, and influencers who all post their possessions on social media.
They're immediately going to closets. They're immediately going to bedrooms. They know where these high-end items are.
This morning, gang member roundup. 26 alleged gang members indicted following a series of crimes in the Atlanta area targeting high-profile celebrities like Mariah Carey, Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley, and Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton. The members allegedly targeting people who displayed their wealth on social media, like Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton, known for showing off designer clothes and handbags.
My thing is shopping.
Mariah Carey's Atlanta area home broken into this summer after posting pictures of herself on vacation. Authorities say this isn't just a celebrity problem. Everyone should be careful when posting on social media.
In a major crackdown on gang activity in Atlanta, a grand jury has indicted 26 individuals allegedly connected to the notorious drug-rich gang. The gang members face a laundry list of charges, including attempted murder, armed robbery, home invasion, kidnapping, and burglary. According to Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, who revealed the indictment at a press conference, Drug Rich has been targeting celebrities and influencers in the Atlanta area, making them their prime victims over the past 2 years. Among the high-profile victims mentioned in the 94-page indictment are pop icon Mariah Carey, Real Housewives of Atlanta star Marlo Hampton, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley, Atlanta United goalkeeper Brad Guzin, and influencer Brittany Mealy. The gang's criminal activities weren't limited to just the rich and famous. They also terrorized everyday residents of Atlanta with carjackings, armed robberies, and even shootings inside homes. One of the most shocking incidents occurred in June when 4 members of Drug Rich allegedly broke into Mariah Carey's mansion in Sandy Springs. Fortunately, she was on vacation at the time, but the suspects reportedly made off with clothing and shoes. Just days later, 2 masked men reportedly broke into Marlo Hampton's home while she was there with her 2 young nephews. Thankfully, they were able to hide in a panic room, and the suspects fled without taking anything. The indictment also outlines even more violent crimes committed by the gang, including a July 4th home invasion in which 5 members shot a man inside a Sandy Springs home. Another horrifying incident in October 2021 involved 10 gang members breaking into a home and forcing a young girl out of the shower at gunpoint, threatening to and her mother. At the press conference, Dia Willis emphasized that while most of the defendants are already in custody, a few remain at large. Those in custody will soon face bond hearings, but given the severity of the charges, it's unlikely they'll be granted bail. All 26 individuals have been charged with violating Georgia's RICO Act.
More tonight about the investigation and arrest of more than a dozen biker gang members after a 13-month multi-agency investigation in Bryan County. You can see those who have been arrested in the picture here. They are all suspected members of the Outcast motorcycle gang, which has national and local chapters.
This investigation started on June 17th of last year, right here at the Red Roof Inn and Flacco House restaurant here in Richmond Hill, after suspected members of the Outcast gang were arrested in connection to a shootout with another gang. And what began as arrests led to the uncovering of alleged active gang activity right here in our area.
This gang was a violent gang and they came into Bryan County.
16 alleged members of the Chicago-based Outcast gang indicted in Bryan County after an 18-month investigation that began with a shootout with a rival gang.
One gang happens to see another gang, and the shooting and this incident and this investigation was all initiated because one gang didn't care for the way the other gang was dressed. They were wearing what they refer to as their colors, in what another group considered to be their territory.
Tonight, a multi-agency investigation leads to the arrest of 16 motorcycle gang members in Bryan County. The arrests and indictments of Outcast gang members, and it's considered the largest biker gang arrest in the state's history.
We're diving deep into the notorious Outcast motorcycle gang, a group that's earned its place among America's most infamous outlaw motorcycle gangs, or one-percenters. Alongside other notorious gangs like the Hells Angels, the Pagans, and the Sin City Disciples, the Outcast motorcycle gang has built a reputation for engaging in serious criminal activities, including assault and trafficking in drugs and weapons. Founded in 1967 in Detroit, Michigan, the Outcast motorcycle gang quickly expanded, with its second chapter forming in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, with 67 chapters across the country, including key locations in Augusta, Hawkinsville, and Savannah, Georgia, the gang operates with a highly organized structure led by elected officers at both the national and local levels. One of the most shocking incidents involving the Outcast motorcycle gang occurred on June 17, 2022, in Richmond Hill, Georgia. The gang members allegedly carried out an armed robbery attempt and a violent shooting at Flacco's House Bar and Grill in the nearby Red Roof Inn on Highway 17. The attack targeted 6 individuals associated with a rival motorcycle club, but it also endangered the lives of innocent civilians in the area, including those at a McDonald's and Arby's. As investigators dug deeper into the case, they uncovered evidence of a year-long conspiracy by the Southeast Georgia chapter of the Outcast motorcycle gang to violently assault members of the rival club and forcibly steal their motorcycle vests. This criminal activity spanned multiple jurisdictions across Georgia and even reached into South Carolina and North Carolina. Operation Patronus, a massive 13-month investigation, saw local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies executing over 40 search warrants across multiple counties. The operation led to the seizure of approximately $180,000 in cash, 71 weapons, 2 motorcycles, and 2 cars, striking a significant blow against the gang's operations. The relentless efforts of law enforcement in Atlanta have led to substantial progress in the fight against organized crime. The indictments and operations against gangs like the 183 Gangster Bloods, Drug Rich, MPL, and others represent critical victories in the quest to restore safety and order to the city. While these actions have dealt significant blows to these criminal organizations, the battle is far from over. Continued vigilance and collaboration between local, state, and federal authorities are essential to ensuring that Atlanta's communities can live free from the fear and violence that these gangs have long imposed. The work to dismantle these networks continues, with the hope that it will lead to a safer, more secure future for all residents.
Madstone Blood gang members are facing indictments for a nationwide racketeering conspiracy.
Tonight, 4 gang members could face life in prison as charges move ahead in 5 back-to-back
We found a 33-count indictment unsealed in federal court today. It says 2 of the men carried out 10 shootings last
Tonight,
December.
4 members of a Northern Virginia gang known as the Reckless Tigers have been found guilty on federal
charges. The state of Virginia
charges.
has seen a significant surge in organized gang-related criminal activity over the past decade. Gangs such as the Rolling 30s Crips, Mad Stone Bloods, 36th Street Bang Squad, 9 Trey Bloods, and Reckless Tigers have been involved in a range of illegal activities, from drug trafficking to violent crimes. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies have responded by launching targeted operations to dismantle these organizations. Recent indictments and prosecutions have brought many of these gangs' most prominent leaders to justice, showcasing the seriousness with which authorities are addressing gang violence as part of the Project Safe Neighborhoods initiative.
4 suspected Roanoke gang members are off the streets after a lengthy investigation by the Central Virginia Violent Crimes Task Force.
I am grateful for the dedication and cooperation of our various federal, state, and local law enforcement partners in bringing these violent gang members to justice.
The 4 men arrested are believed to be part of the Rolling 30s Crips gang, a national gang that has taken up residence in Roanoke. 29-year-old DeMonte Rashad Mack and 19-year-old Trayvon Raycron Casey have been charged with the aid of racketeering, among other charges. Those charges are related to the June 2017 of 17-year-old Nicholas Lee, who had just graduated from Patrick Henry High School, and this February of 23-year-old Markel Gertie, a father of 2. The other suspected Rolling 30s members, 27-year-old Sean Denzel Garant and 24-year-old Chauncey Dion Levacy, have each been charged with racketeering conspiracy.
The indictment involves 4 suspected members of the Rolling 30s gang in Roanoke who were charged with various crimes, including racketeering conspiracy and conspiracy to commit deletion. The Rolling 30s Crips, also referred to as the Rolling 30s or Dirt Gang, is a national street gang that originated in Los Angeles, California, and has spread to other cities, including Roanoke, Virginia. The Roanoke chapter of the Rolling 30s primarily operated in northwest Roanoke, particularly in the Lansdowne neighborhood. According to the indictment, beginning as early as April 22, 2017, Garant, Mack, Casey, Levacy, and others conspired to engage in a pattern of racketeering activities involving multiple threats and acts of violence. The indictment specifically alleges that on June 14-15, 2017, the defendants conspired to commit the deletion of Marco Trevin Gertie. Additionally, the indictment claims that Mack, Casey, and Levacy carried out the deletion of Nicholas Nathaniel Lee under the direction of Garant.
Brandon White's mother, Karina, expressed relief at the convictions. She describes how she felt the presence of her 21-year-old son as the trial of members of the Reckless Tigers began at the federal courthouse in Alexandria. Brothers Peter and Tony Lee, along with Young Yu and Joseph Lamborn, were found guilty of numerous federal racketeering charges. Charges against all but Tony Lee. Prosecutors say White was severely beaten by one of the Reckless Tigers in 2018 and had testified against him even after the gang offered him money to keep quiet.
The Reckless Tigers gang, which began operating in Northern Virginia around 2011, was affiliated with the West Side Asian Boys, a larger and well-known street gang from California. The Reckless Tigers initially started in Centerville, Virginia, where they quickly expanded their influence primarily through drug distribution. Their narcotics operations involved distributing drugs. Notably, many of their clients were high school and college students across Northern Virginia. The gang's criminal enterprise extended beyond drug trafficking. Over time, they became known for violent retaliations, often targeting individuals who had outstanding drug debts or were suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. In some instances, gang members engaged in violent acts such as using Molotov cocktails and conducting drive-by shootings. These actions created fear and chaos within the community, particularly in Fairfax, Prince William, and Stafford counties. The gang was implicated in 2 deletions, both of which escalated their criminal notoriety. The first incident took place in 2016 during a house party where a guest was involved in a physical altercation with gang members, leading to his deletion. The second, more high-profile incident occurred in 2019 and involved the deletion of Brandon White, a man who owed a drug debt to a gang member. White had testified against one of the Reckless Tigers in court, defying the gang's threats and bribes to stay silent. Following his testimony, he was abducted and violently attacked by gang members, ultimately leading to his demise in a wooded area. The investigation and subsequent legal proceedings against the Reckless Tigers resulted in 21 individuals pleading guilty to various federal charges. The gang's leaders and members were sentenced to multiple life terms in prison, effectively dismantling the gang's operations. 5 members of the Mad Stone Bloods gang have been sentenced in Roanoke for their involvement in a criminal conspiracy that included smuggling drugs and contraband into Virginia prisons and facilitating drug sales outside of these facilities with the help of complicit correctional officers. Acting Assistant Attorney General Cronin highlighted the broader impact of these activities, noting that gangs operating within prison systems not only contribute to the flow of drugs and violence into these institutions, but also spread drug-related violence into surrounding communities. Court cases in which Nicholas and Epps pleaded guilty, along with evidence presented at the trials of 3 other gang members, revealed that the MSB gang operates in several states, including Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Maryland. Members of the gang admitted to engaging in activities such as narcotics trafficking, wire fraud, mail fraud, and acts involving deletions both inside and outside of prison. The national leadership of the gang is based in New York, and MSB leaders in Virginia are reported to follow orders from these New York-based leaders. In addition, the gang worked with employees of the Virginia Department of Corrections, including correctional officers and an inmate counselor, to smuggle controlled substances, phones, accessories, and other contraband into several prison facilities to assist incarcerated MSB members.
Tonight, these are the men facing charges in their Anthony Foy, Nathaniel Mitchell, Antonio Simmons, and Alvon Davis. 33 charges in all, including an attempted racketeering, assault, and drug charges. Federal authorities say they are members of the 9 Trey gangsters affiliated with the United Blood Nation. The indictment says a conflict between 2 local sets of the gang is what fueled the crime spree on Robin Hood Road in Norfolk. 6 days later, the shooting stopped when officers arrested Foy and Mitchell following an armed robbery at the Shell gas station on Portsmouth Boulevard. The indictment alleges Foy and Mitchell committed 10 shootings together last December. Simmons, the gang leader, allegedly participated in the planning of at least 3 shootings.
4 members of the local set of the 9 Trey gangsters have been indicted for their alleged involvement in 5 deletions and 5 other shootings that occurred in December 2015. The indictment outlines that these incidents stem from a conflict between 2 local sets of the 9 Trey, a gang affiliated with the United Blood Nation. The set led by Simmons, which included Foy, Mitchell, and Davis, was at the center of the violent events. According to the indictment, Foy and Mitchell were responsible for all 10 shootings, with Simmons having planned at least 3 of the attacks. Davis acted as the getaway driver in multiple shootings and assisted in disposing of a body. Among the victims was 48-year-old Linda Lassiter and her boyfriend Wayne Davis. Linda's father, Horace Lassiter, expressed some relief at the indictments but still has unanswered questions. Other victims include Altaric Tynes, 27, whose body was found in a ditch in Chesapeake on December 10th, Benelette Mercer, 27, who was deleted on December 15th in Portsmouth, and Jamisha Roberts, 25, who was deleted on December 21st in Norfolk. The shootings came to an end following the arrests of Foy and Mitchell after an armed robbery at a Portsmouth Shell gas station in December 2015. Police recovered a gun, casings, bullets, and cell phones that linked them to the incidents. Foy and Mitchell had previously been convicted and sentenced for their involvement in the robbery.
Of the 7 gang members that are on trial, 3 are implicated in the most serious crimes, including Deshaun Richardson, Martin Hunt, and Xavier Green. Prosecutors say they were involved in 3 in 2015. The gang's turf is in the area of 36th and 37th from Wickham to Madison in Newport News. Prosecutors say they had an ongoing beef with the nearby Walker Village gang from 2015 through 2017. According to the indictment, it was triggered by one of the defendants' gang by the Walker Village gang. The charges include 3 in 2015. Also that year, prosecutors say several members of the 36th Street gang, including Ryan Tabron, followed a Walker Village member home from high school, planning to...
In the case presented, court documents and evidence indicated that the individuals associated with the 36th Street Bang Squad were deeply involved in organized criminal activities, including violent acts and drug trafficking. The charges against them included their roles in multiple deletions and retaliatory shootings. Notably, the deletion of Jada Richardson and Domingo Davis occurred on April 6, 2015, while Dwayne Parker was deleted on March 8, 2015. These acts were part of a broader strategy aimed at confronting rival gangs. According to U.S. Attorney G. Zachary Terwilliger, the 36th Street Bang Squad operated as a structured and dangerous criminal enterprise. The acts of violence committed by the group were intentional and designed to elevate the gang's reputation. The operations were concentrated in Newport News and Hampton, Virginia, where the gang used violence as a tool to assert dominance, protect territory, and retaliate against rivals. Members of the gang earned their standing through violent actions, which included robberies and the trading of illegal firearms and vehicles. The 36th Street Bang Squad also engaged in a practice referred to as op shopping, where members would actively search for rival gang members and carry out violent attacks on sight. Social media platforms like Facebook played a significant role in heightening conflicts, as gang members posted content that taunted rivals and bragged about their activities, often through music videos and posts that boasted about retaliatory acts. Under the leadership of Tabron, the 36th Street Bang Squad planned and executed numerous operations. The gang's primary hubs included Marshall Courts, Seven Oaks Apartments, and Tabron's home in Hampton. The group engaged in prolonged conflicts with several rival gangs in the area, including the Walker Village M Gang, Newsom Park Gang, 44th Street Gang, 9th Street Gang, and Chestnut Gang. The tensions were inflamed by their online presence, which frequently escalated into real-life violence. The prosecution of these violent gangs in Virginia underscores the ongoing efforts of law enforcement to combat gang-related crime and protect local communities. By working together, federal and state agencies have managed to bring down dangerous organizations such as the Rolling 30s Crips, Mad Stone Bloods, and Reckless Tigers, significantly reducing the threat posed by these gangs. These cases highlight the importance of collaboration among law enforcement entities in tackling organized crime and bringing justice to those affected by gang violence, ensuring safer neighborhoods.
Police say they are part of the Get Money Stepas gang, an incredibly dangerous gang that police say were involved in homicides, shootings, drug deals, arson, and much more, using illegal weapons and automatic rifles. They're primarily targeted the South End neighborhood of Hartford, but not only that, they've crossed some state lines.
Hi, Ben. Good evening to you. Now, New Haven police say that this alleged gang has been around here since the early 2000s, and they call themselves Exit 8. Now, police say that they're one of the most dangerous groups in the area, and they do hope this indictment sends them a message.
Members, associates, and leaders now behind bars and have been convicted recently for killing rival gang members and innocent people. It's a major gang takedown to take back Waterbury neighborhoods.
Gang violence and organized crime in Connecticut have seen increased attention from law enforcement in recent years, resulting in major investigations and indictments. From the streets of New Haven to Waterbury and Hartford, several notorious gangs like Exit 8, 960, and Get Money Stepas, GMS, have been linked to a range of criminal activities, including drug trafficking, firearms violations, and violent confrontations with rival groups. These gangs, some of which have origins dating back over a decade, have left a trail of destruction in their wake, often using social media and music videos to promote and coordinate their illicit actions. Through ongoing federal and local efforts, significant progress has been made in holding these groups accountable, leading to numerous arrests and charges under racketeering statutes.
Federal law enforcement officials announcing a major bust where they've arrested and charged 6 members of an alleged gang.
Gun violence will not be tolerated.
Federal officials say the 6 men have been charged with racketeering conspiracy, including drug trafficking and attempted. They're part of a group called Exit 8. Police say the gang uses that name since they cover the area right off the I-91 exit. Newer, younger members also go by Honcho, named after a former member killed by a rival gang on Quinnipiac Ave in 2020.
And then they carried that torch, unfortunately the torch of violence.
Chief Carl Jacobson knows many of the men well, especially 24-year-old Donald Alec Jr.
It's just compelling to be here 10 years later after meeting him at his father's home when we solved his father's murder.
After his dad was killed by rival gang members, the chief says Alec Jr. chose the wrong path.
As a result of an investigation into gang-related drug trafficking and related violence in New Haven, a federal grand jury in Bridgeport has returned an indictment charging 6 alleged members and associates of the Exit 8 Street Gang in New Haven with conspiring to engage in a pattern of racketeering activity, including drug trafficking, deletion, and attempted deletion, as well as related offenses. The charges stem from an ongoing investigation into a gang-related conflict in New Haven, focused on violence in areas including the Hill section of the city. The Exit 8 gang, named after the area accessible via Exit 8 off Interstate 91 in New Haven, has been associated with drug trafficking and multiple violent incidents. According to court documents, members of the Exit 8 gang have been involved in drug distribution, firearm offenses, and numerous violent acts since June 2018. The group allegedly coordinated and celebrated their criminal activities through text messaging and social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. In recent years, younger members of Exit 8 have begun to identify themselves with the term honcho, in reference to a gang member who was deleted in February 2020. The indictment outlines several acts of violence attributed to Exit 8 members, including multiple attempted deletions and incidents of gunfire targeting rival gang members. Some of the specific allegations include a June 2018 shooting in which 3 people were targeted, several incidents in 2019 and 2021 where gang members reportedly attempted to delete rivals, and a string of violent incidents between April and June 2021, during which Exit 8 members allegedly carried out shootings, resulting in both attempted deletions and deletions. Additionally, in September 2022, Exit 8 members were accused of a fatal shooting involving a rival. Charges filed against the gang members include racketeering conspiracy, with potential sentences of up to 60 years for some individuals and 20 years for others if convicted. Specific defendants also face charges of attempted assault with a dangerous weapon, attempted deletion, unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon, and drug distribution offenses, which carry varying maximum sentences. The investigation reflects ongoing efforts by federal, state, and local law enforcement to address gang-related violence in New Haven.
Waterbury's fiercest gangs is collapsing. Its leader and some other top members are now in prison, most likely for life.
It's a major gang takedown to take back Waterbury neighborhoods.
This case was one of the most complicated that our city has seen.
The FBI has spent 6 years trying to shut down the Brass City Syndicate, called 960. Its leader, Gabriel Pulliam, and associate Julian Scott were convicted last week. For years, the gang has been dealing drugs and running an organized crime ring. In 2018, Pulliam and Scott shot at a group of people, a young mother of 4, and paralyzing a second woman. We were there as a community mourned. The killer's now facing life without parole. So are these 4, all in their mid-20s. 2 rival gang members in 2017. This is from that horrifying night. A shaken neighborhood demanded answers.
Say that this is one of the most complicated cases the city of Waterbury has ever seen, because they spent years investigating this violent group known as the 960 Street Gang, and now 2 more members have been convicted. 30-year-old Gabriel Pulliam and 25-year-old Julian Scott were found guilty last week for their participation in the group. They faced racketeering-related charges, including shootings and gang-related offenses. The 2 are now part of 14 total members and associates of the 960 gang who have been convicted since a grand jury indicted them in September 2021.
According to court documents, the gang in question originated in 2008 as a local street gang in Waterbury's Long Hill Projects area. Over time, the group evolved into 1920, before adopting its current name, which is 960. Members of the gang communicate through various channels, including Facebook, phone calls, text messages, and music videos, often using gang symbols and code words to conceal their criminal activities. Several individuals associated with the gang have been convicted for their involvement in violent incidents between 2017 and 2018 in Waterbury. These incidents include a double deletion in 2017 and a shooting in 2018 that resulted in the deletion of a mother of 4 and left another woman paralyzed. To address the gang's involvement in drug trafficking and associated violence, the FBI, ATF, and Waterbury police have collaborated in an ongoing investigation. On September 12, 2021, a federal grand jury in Hartford returned a 36-count indictment against 960 members, including Gabriel Pulliam, Julian Scott, and 14 others. The charges included racketeering, narcotics trafficking, firearm possession, deletion, attempted deletion, assault, and obstruction of justice. Specific incidents highlighted in the indictment include an October 6, 2018 drive-by shooting involving Scott and other gang members targeting rivals. On October 11, 2018, Pulliam, Scott, and other members participated in another drive-by shooting aimed at rival gang members, which tragically resulted in the deletion of 20-year-old Francois Guzman and the paralysis of another individual. A similar drive-by shooting took place on November 18, 2018, where Scott and his associates targeted rivals, resulting in injuries to 2 individuals.
Police have been hard at work behind the scenes, taking down an extremely dangerous gang.
Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Eliza Krasinski is joining us now live at the Hartford Police Department with more on how police took down these criminals.
Police say they are part of the Get Money Stepas gang, an incredibly dangerous gang that police say were involved in shootings, drug deals, arson, and much more, using illegal weapons and automatic rifles. They're primarily targeted the South End neighborhood of Hartford, but not only that, they've crossed some state lines.
The racketeering case against 13 individuals allegedly involved with the Get Money Stepas, a criminal group, includes accusations of drug trafficking, firearms violations, vehicle thefts, and violence between rival crime groups. One catalyst for the violent incidents may have been the deletion of a memorial dedicated to the leader of a predecessor group, who was deleted in front of his Hartford home in March 2015. According to detectives, the memorial was for Julius Rivera, the leader of the 420 gang, which operated in the Wethersfield Avenue area, including Benton, Elliott, and Bond Streets, as well as Lawrence Street, over a mile away. Rivera's deletion triggered a series of retaliatory acts, including other deletions and violent crimes, eventually leading to the decline of the 420 gang's organizational structure. By 2020, a group of loosely associated friends and neighbors continued using the name 420, but rebranded as Get Money Stepas, GMS, to signify unity with new associates. The reconstituted group engaged in violent activities such as robberies of drug dealers and shootings of rival gang members, as well as acts against uninvolved citizens, aiming to solidify their criminal reputation, according to detectives. One violent incident tied to Rivera's deletion occurred on February 17, 2022, when Christian Feliciano, known as Kiki, was shot 14 times outside a barbershop on Franklin Avenue in Hartford. Feliciano was armed but did not draw his weapon, according to police reports. Detectives indicated that Feliciano had been feuding with an individual known as Gilly, recently released from prison and affiliated with the 420 gang. Feliciano had reportedly kicked over a memorial dedicated to Rivera in front of his former home, which may have contributed to the conflict. Leonardo LaBoy, 24, one of the individuals charged with Feliciano's deletion, has Rivera's first name, Julius, tattooed on his forehead. LaBoy and co-defendant Juan Perez, 28, are also among those charged in the ongoing racketeering case. Detectives cited evidence from social media posts and rap videos to support the claim that all the defendants in the racketeering case were connected to GMS. One Facebook post attributed to racketeering defendant Gilberto "Gilly" Mendez appears to mock Feliciano following his deletion, accompanied by a link to a music video. According to the investigation, GMS has used professionally produced rap videos, often filmed in multiple locations and costing thousands of dollars, to promote their activities. Further violence against Feliciano's family occurred on February 16, 2023, the day before the first anniversary of his deletion. While visiting his grave in a Bloomfield cemetery, family members were attacked by a group of individuals who pistol-whipped one of the mourners, placing a gun to the back of her head and stealing her cell phone, wallet, and credit cards. Jeremy White, 21, is charged with first-degree robbery, second-degree assault, and other crimes related to this incident, and is believed to be the current leader of GMS. Although all the incidents mentioned in the racketeering case have led to arrests, detectives also highlighted a series of retaliatory shootings between GMS and the Orange Street Gang in 2022 and 2023, some of which resulted in deletions. However, these recent incidents have not yet led to arrests. The indictments and investigations into gangs like Exit 8, 960, and Get Money Stepas highlight the persistent challenges posed by organized criminal groups in Connecticut. The violence and criminal activities associated with these gangs have had devastating effects on their communities, but coordinated law enforcement efforts are actively working to dismantle these operations. With multiple gang members facing lengthy sentences, the hope is that these actions will not only bring justice to the victims, but also deter future violence and provide some relief to the neighborhoods affected by gangs.
Attorney General Kathy Jennings announced the indictment of 10 members of what's called the Exit 4 gang, also known as the MAG, on over 130 criminal charges. The case stems from a multi-year investigation involving state and local law enforcement agencies.
Kids. And while prosecutors say Jordan was not in a gang, they say
set off years of gang violence, his name cited often in the back and forth.
His death quickly turned into him becoming a martyr in a years-long war between rival gangs shoot to kill and only my brothers.
Today we are announcing the indictment of 14 defendants on 128 total criminal charges, including several charges stemming from their involvement in a Wilmington area gang known as NorthPak.
Delaware has faced persistent challenges with gang-related violence and organized crime, particularly in Wilmington. Over the years, authorities have launched several high-profile operations targeting criminal organizations responsible for drug trafficking, gun violence, and other illegal activities. These efforts, such as Operation Rise-N-Shyne and the indictments of Exit 4, NorthPak, and OMB gangs, showcase the state's commitment to dismantling dangerous networks, ensuring public safety, and reducing crime. By employing coordinated multi-agency strategies, Delaware has taken significant steps to combat gang influence while addressing the root causes of community violence. Operation Rise-N-Shyne was a wide-reaching investigation aimed at dismantling gang-related drug trafficking and violent crime in Delaware. Launched in February 2020, the operation brought together local, state, and federal agencies. The investigation began following a series of arrests by the Dover Police Department for firearms and narcotics offenses. These arrests revealed an extensive network of illegal activities, ultimately identifying Marquise Mack as a key supplier to Kent County, Delaware. Mack, a member of the mob Piru Gang, a subset of the Bloods Gang, was operating from the Atlanta, Georgia area, linking local crimes to larger interstate criminal networks. Operation Rise-N-Shyne officially commenced in June 2020 and spanned 5 months, concluding with a coordinated warrant roundup in November. The operation's extensive reach covered multiple states, including Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia. This collaborative effort targeted several criminal organizations, including the G-Shine Bloods, Mob Piru Bloods, Sex, Money, Murder Bloods, and 48 Gang. The operation resulted in the indictment of 39 individuals and over 50 arrests, significantly disrupting these gangs' activities. Authorities seized a substantial cache of drugs, firearms, and cash, including. In February 2022, key figures involved in the operation received significant prison sentences. Marquise Mack was sentenced to 10 years for felony drug dealing, while Michael Taylor received a 5-year sentence for firearm and drug-related offenses. These sentences highlight the commitment of law enforcement and the Delaware Department of Justice to reducing violent crime and drug trafficking in the region. Operation Rise-N-Shyne stands as a prime example of the power of coordinated law enforcement efforts. By dismantling major drug distribution networks, removing illegal firearms from circulation, and disrupting violent gang operations, the initiative has enhanced public safety across Delaware and beyond. This successful operation underscores the importance of multi-agency collaboration in addressing complex, cross-state criminal activities. It also reflects the dedication of law enforcement agencies to creating safer communities by targeting the root causes of violence and crime.
General, as she announced an arrest in the cold case of then 16-year-old Jordan Ellerby, shot almost exactly 8 years ago as he was on the porch of a home on North Broome Street in Wilmington's Hilltop neighborhood. In front of Jordan's family, prosecutors tell us they've arrested 24-year-old Oliver Butter Henry for Jordan and for the attempted 2 boys with Jordan that night. They say Oliver Henry shot them, but they survived.
We are talking about kids, other kids.
And while prosecutors say Jordan was not in a gang, they say his murder set off years of gang violence, his name cited often in the back and forth.
His quickly turned into him becoming a martyr in a years-long war between rival gangs shoot to kill and only my brothers.
Over the years, there have been dozens of arrests for a number of shootings and murders between the groups, including the 2016 broad daylight 15-year-old Brandon Wingo as he walked home from Howard High School on the city's east side.
In 2016, Delaware authorities launched an extensive crackdown on the Only My Brothers (OMB) gang, a group linked to escalating violence and significant criminal activities in Wilmington. This operation resulted in the indictment of multiple gang members, marking a critical step in the state's ongoing efforts to combat organized crime and protect public safety. The OMB gang had been identified as a major driver of violent incidents in Wilmington, particularly in its conflict with rival gangs such as Shoot to Kill STK. In 2016, a grand jury indicted numerous OMB members on charges that included murder, assault, weapons offenses, and gang participation. The detailed indictment painted a stark picture of the gang's activities and their devastating impact on the community. The legal proceedings against OMB members unfolded over several years. By 2017, several individuals had pleaded guilty to charges including gang participation, carrying concealed deadly weapons, and resisting arrest. These pleas reflected a concerted effort to hold members accountable while dismantling the gang's operations. The final case against an OMB member concluded in 2021 with a guilty plea, bringing the total number of convictions to approximately 20. Charges ranged from to other serious felonies, resulting in sentences amounting to over 300 years of prison time and multiple life sentences. This series of prosecutions achieved a 100% conviction rate, showcasing the effectiveness of the coordinated legal strategy. Despite these legal victories, the fight against gang violence in Wilmington is far from over. Arrests and indictments have disrupted OMB's activities, but have not fully stemmed the cycle of violence. Ongoing rivalries and new incidents continue to emerge, emphasizing the need for sustained efforts to address the underlying causes of gang involvement and violence.
Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings announced the indictment of 10 members of what's called the Exit 4 gang, also known as the MAG, on over 130 criminal charges. The case stems from a multi-year investigation involving state and local law enforcement agencies. Charges include 3 multiple attempted murders and gun-related crimes between 2020 and 2024.
In December 2024, Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings announced a major legal action targeting the Wilmington-based gang known as Exit 4, also referred to as the MAG, or MAG Boys. This indictment marked the culmination of a years-long investigation conducted by multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Delaware Department of Justice, Wilmington Police Department, and Newcastle County Police Department, with support from the Delaware State Police and the Delaware Department of Correction. The case against Exit 4 involved over 130 criminal charges, highlighting the extensive and serious nature of the gang's alleged activities. Between January 2020 and December 2024, gang members were accused of committing numerous violent crimes, including the murders of Ladahija Hill, Khalil Amir Bey, and Kwamir Wise. In addition to the charges include multiple attempted and other violent offenses that have disrupted the safety of Wilmington communities. Attorney General Jennings emphasized the devastating impact of gang violence on the community. She stated, "Criminal gangs play an outsized role in the gun violence that plagues parts of Wilmington and our surrounding communities. Exit 4 is part of a vicious criminal underground. They terrorize innocent people and fuel the cycle of violence and retribution that prosecutors, law enforcement, and social workers spend their lives working to disrupt."
Between November of 2018 and April of this year, members of a group called NorthPak are alleged to have committed crimes, including the murders of 6 victims. Gun violence has devastated families across this city, across this state, and across our nation.
In June 2021, Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings announced a pivotal indictment against the Wilmington-based gang known as NorthPak. The charges followed a 6-month investigation carried out by multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Delaware Department of Justice, Wilmington Police Department, Newcastle County Police Department, and federal partners such as the FBI and ATF. The indictment accused 14 individuals of committing over 120 criminal offenses between November 2018 and April 2021. These crimes included 6 murders and several shootings that had fueled a surge in violence across Wilmington. Among the victims were Stephen Price, Taryn Whaley, Ollier Henry, Taquan Davis, Sharif Hamilton, and Dakevis Reed, whose deaths highlighted the devastating toll of gang-related violence on local families and communities. Following the indictment, extensive legal proceedings resulted in significant convictions. By April 2024, the final NorthPak defendant was convicted of 2 murders and more than 50 additional felonies, marking the conclusion of a determined prosecution effort. In total, more than 150 convictions were secured against NorthPak members, with sentences collectively surpassing 300 years in prison and including 4 life sentences. The crackdowns on gangs like OMB, NorthPak, Exit 4, and the results of operations like Rise-N-Shyne reflect Delaware's robust and sustained efforts to address organized crime. These initiatives have disrupted violent networks, removed illegal firearms from communities, and reduced the flow of narcotics. However, the persistence of gang violence underscores the complexity of the issue and the need for long-term, multifaceted approaches. By combining law enforcement actions with investments in education, community outreach, and economic opportunities, Delaware can build on these successes and continue fostering safer, more resilient communities for its residents.
Michael Cacciatelli is the 40-year-old Italian man who's in charge of the almighty Latin Kings and Queen Nation. Known as King Merlin and based in Springfield, authorities say he's the supreme East Coast regional overseer of the Latin Kings, reigning over 14 states from Massachusetts to Florida. Cacciatelli has blood ties to the Italian mob, the Genovese crime family based in New York that also operates in Springfield.
After a 2-year-long investigation, authorities say 12 people have been charged for selling crack.
The federal investigation was launched in an effort to improve the quality of life for the residents of Orchard Park. The focus of the investigation was on street-level drug dealers who used the development as their base, even though many do not even live there.
Massachusetts has long faced significant challenges with gang-related violence and criminal activities. And over the years, law enforcement has executed large-scale operations to combat the influence of notorious street gangs. From the Orchard Park Trailblazers to the Columbia Point Dogs, and from the Knox Street Posse to the Latin Kings, these organizations have engaged in drug trafficking, firearms offenses, and acts of violence that have terrorized communities. Federal and state agencies, along with local law enforcement, have worked relentlessly to infiltrate these groups, leading to multiple high-profile indictments and arrests across the state. This concerted effort reflects an ongoing battle against gang influence and the associated harm that plagues many neighborhoods in Massachusetts.
After a 2-year-long investigation, authorities say 12 people have been charged for selling crack cocaine in Roxbury.
The federal investigation was launched in an effort to improve the quality of life for the residents of Orchard Park. The focus of the investigation was on street-level drug dealers who used the development as their base, even though many do not even live there.
All but one of those men charged in this investigation, authorities say, are in the Orchard Park Trailblazers or Vine Forest Street gangs.
And it was good to see a dozen of them taken off and another dozen guns taken off the streets.
The investigation zeroing in on crime taking place in the Orchard Gardens housing development. Authorities say one suspect, Diamond Brito, a member of the Orchard Park Trailblazers gang, sold investigators a dozen guns and
12 men, including 11 alleged members or associates of the Orchard Park Trailblazers and Vine/Forest Street gangs, have been charged in connection with selling drugs in and around Roxbury's Orchard Gardens housing development. Today, federal, state, and local law enforcement officers arrested 8 of the defendants who are accused of distributing within 1,000 feet of a school zone. Raul Williams, also known as Booby, a 26-year-old from Boston and a suspected member of the Orchard Park Trailblazers, was previously charged at the state level. Another individual, Jose Quinones, also known as Julio, a 24-year-old member of the same gang, had been charged with being an alien in possession of a firearm and distributing. He was later deported to the Dominican Republic. During an earlier phase of this ongoing investigation, another gang member, Diamond Brito, was sentenced to 8 years in prison after being charged with gun and drug offenses. Brito, identified as an Orchard Park trailblazer, sold investigators 12 firearms and then various drugs. This investigation, spanning nearly 2 years, focused on the high levels of crime centered around the Orchard Park development, the largest public housing complex in Roxbury, which sits next to the Orchard Gardens K Pilot School. Much of the criminal activity is attributed to members and associates of the Orchard Park Trailblazers, who are involved in violent feuds with rival gangs across the city. These conflicts have contributed to increased violence in the area. According to court documents, 11 of the 12 defendants are affiliated with either the Orchard Park Trailblazers or the Vine Forest Street Gang. Between October 2015 and May 2017, 3 cooperating witnesses conducted 34 controlled drug purchases from the defendants in or near the housing development.
Dozens of members belonging to Boston's largest and most powerful gang have been arrested. Federal authorities said today members and associates of the Columbia Point Dogs were indicted on drug and gun charges. They say the gang started operating out of the Columbia Point housing project in the Dorchester section of Boston in the 1980s, eventually trafficking drugs from Boston up to Maine.
Which incidents are we talking about?
This operation didn't just dismantle a large-scale drug trafficking network. It focused on individuals who gang prosecutors believe are responsible for much violence in our city.
Over 500 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers carried out a series of arrests and executed more than 30 federal search warrants early this morning as part of a 2-year wiretap investigation known as Operation Rising Tide. This coordinated effort led to the unsealing of 6 federal indictments, charging 48 leaders, members, and associates of the Columbia Point Dogs, CPD, with drug trafficking and firearms offenses. According to court documents, the CPD, also referred to as the Point on the Streets, is recognized as Boston's largest and most influential gang. The organization began in the 1980s in the former Columbia Point housing development, now known as Harbor Point. Over the years, members of the gang expanded their drug trafficking operations throughout Boston and eventually extended their reach into Maine. Investigators allege that the CPD was responsible for distributing large quantities of drugs across Boston and Maine during the investigation. The CPD is also believed to have maintained its dominance in Boston's drug trade through a consistent pattern of violence and intimidation. Members of the gang have been linked to numerous shootings targeting rival gangs over the years. Most notably, within the last 18 months, the CPD has been engaged in a violent conflict with the Greenwood Street Posse and other gangs aligned with Greenwood. This gang war resulted in multiple shootings. During the investigation, law enforcement officers seized 14 firearms, some of which were intercepted after investigators, using court-authorized wiretaps, overheard conversations indicating an imminent attack.
According to DA Anthony Gallooni, this gang is considered the most violent one currently operating in western Massachusetts. The Knox Street Posse is known for trafficking firearms and distributing narcotics throughout western New England, mostly in Hampden County and southern Vermont.
Among the most notable arrests are the Garcia brothers. The Garcia brothers led the Knox Street Posse. After being the focal point of the operation, all are now charged with serious crimes for which they are held by the state's dangerousness statute for a minimum period of 120 days.
And the district DA, that is Anthony Gallooni, formed the Strategic Action Focused Enforcement Team, which operates out of his office. The Strategic Action and Focused Enforcement SAFE Unit was established earlier this year following an investigation of the Knox Street Posse in Springfield, which is considered the most violent gang currently operating in western Massachusetts. The
Hampton District Attorney's Office announced Tuesday that an investigation led by the newly formed SAFE Unit has resulted in the arrest of 15 men for drug trafficking and illegal firearms possession. The SAFE Unit has been investigating the Knox Street Posse, a gang based in Springfield, for several months. According to District Attorney Anthony Gallooni, the Knox Street Posse is considered the most violent gang currently operating in western Massachusetts. Information gathered by investigators revealed that the gang has been involved in ongoing street wars with rival gangs. The group is known for trafficking firearms and distributing narcotics across western New England, with a significant presence in Hampden County and southern Vermont. As a result of the investigation, 15 members and associates of the Knox Street Posse have been arrested over the past several months. 11 of those arrested are being held under the state's dangerousness statute, while one individual is being held on $100,000 cash bail. Among the most notable arrests were the Garcia brothers, identified as leaders of the Knox Street Posse. They are facing serious charges and are being held under the state's dangerousness statute. requiring a minimum 120-day detention.
Federal prosecutors are filing federal charges against more than 40 alleged gang members and their associates. Good afternoon. I'm Paula Eben. Now, the acting United States attorney says that the suspects are all part of the Heath Street Gang, which has been operating for years near the Mildred C. Haley apartments in Jamaica Plain. Charges include racketeering conspiracy, drug offenses, firearms offenses, as well as $900,000 worth of COVID fraud and organized retail theft. During this morning's arrest, officers seized more than 60 weapons.
New this morning, 4 Mainers among a group of 41 people facing federal charges for being part of a violent gang in Boston. Amanda LaPointe of Ripley, Jacob Lyford of Milo, Michael St. Pierre out of Dedham, and Kayla Tasker of Dexter, all arrested earlier this week. They are accused of being part of what is known as the Heath Street Gang. Members of the...
Breaking news, the U.S. Attorney's Office is holding a news conference right now to announce that more than 40 alleged local gang members have been arrested. Let's listen in.
Court, charging over 40 individuals with racketeering conspiracy, drug offenses, firearms offenses, and financial crimes, including COVID fraud and brazen organized retail theft. The defendants charged today are members and associates of the Heath Street Gang, which, as alleged in the court documents, has been operating for many years in and around the Mildred C. Haley apartments in Jamaica Plain. This morning, nearly 24 members and associates of the Heath Street Gang were arrested, and several other individuals who are in state and federal custody have now been charged in federal court with new offenses.
Over 40 members and associates of the Heath Street Gang in Boston were charged in federal court today with a wide range of crimes, including racketeering conspiracy, drug trafficking, firearms offenses, wire fraud, and financial frauds, such as COVID-related fraud. These charges come after a 2-year investigation into gang violence and criminal activities in Boston. According to court documents, the Heath Street Gang operates primarily out of the Mildred C. Haley apartments, formerly known as the Bromley Heath Housing Development, which is one of the largest public housing complexes in the greater Boston area. The gang, which formed in the 1980s, is believed to have over 150 members and has historically used violence to maintain its power, territory, and reputation. The gang is accused of engaging in numerous violent acts, including deletions, attempted deletions, and shootings, many of which targeted rival gang members from other Boston-based groups, particularly the Mission Hill Gang and the H-Block Gang. One notable incident occurred in October 2016 when a shooting aimed at rivals in Mission Hill territory resulted in a 9-year-old girl being severely injured. Additionally, a June 2021 deletion was allegedly committed by a juvenile member of the Heath Street Gang in Mission Hill's territory. The Heath Street Gang is also accused of recruiting juveniles from the Mildred C. Haley apartments to join their ranks and carry out criminal activities, including shootings. Prospective younger members were allegedly required to commit acts of violence as part of their initiation into the gang. These juveniles were sometimes featured in Heath Street Gang songs or music videos, which the gang used to assert their dominance, boast about violent acts, and threaten rival gangs. In several instances, gang members were associates of assaulted law enforcement officers while they were performing their duties. The gang is also accused of using the Mildred C. Haley apartments as a hub for drug trafficking operations. Over several years, they allegedly built drug distribution networks extending across Massachusetts, Maine, and California. Heath Street members are known to use social media platforms to facilitate their drug sales. They use social media to advertise, negotiate, and arrange drug deals. In addition to their violent and drug-related activities, the Heath Street Gang is also implicated in various financial crimes. This includes an organized retail theft ring that has been stealing merchandise from stores across Massachusetts and New Hampshire since at least 2019. Gang members are also alleged to have engaged in widespread CARES Act loan fraud and unemployment fraud, exploiting financial relief programs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Maria, the FBI says Michael Cacciatelli rose to the top of the organization even after he was charged and sent to prison more than a decade ago for his involvement in the Latin Kings. Michael Cacciatelli is the 40-year-old Italian man who's in charge of the almighty Latin Kings and Queen Nation. Known as King Merlin and based in Springfield, authorities say he's the supreme East Coast regional overseer of the Latin Kings, reigning over 14 states from Massachusetts to Florida. Cacciatelli has blood ties to the Italian mob, the Genovese crime family based in New York that also operates in Springfield, which may explain this.
We believe under Cacciatelli's leadership, the eastern region of the Latin Kings is currently structured, organized, and run like La Cosa Nostra. They have evolved from a traditional street gang to a large-scale criminal enterprise superimposed with mafia-style rule.
Of the gang's leadership and prevented at least 8 murders. Among those arrested, the alleged leader of the East Coast operations, Michael Ciccatelli, a Springfield man who the FBI says is connected to the Genovese crime family. 73 suspects in all are charged in the wide-ranging RICO indictment. The FBI...
More than 60 members and associates of the almighty Latin King and Queen Nation, commonly known as the Latin Kings, are now facing federal charges following a massive bust carried out by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Among those charged are members of the gang's East Coast leadership, authorities confirmed. Joe Bonavolonta, special agent in charge of the FBI's Boston division, described the operation as the largest takedown in the division's history. Massachusetts, U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling referred to the Latin Kings as one of the largest criminal organizations in the world. The arrests come after a 4-year investigation in which law enforcement infiltrated the gang, using informants to record high-level conversations and monitoring social media for posts that implicated members in criminal activities. According to court documents, many of the individuals arrested were featured in YouTube rap videos, dressed in the gang's colors, black and gold, displaying gang signs, and rapping about drugs and violence. In one video titled Chronicles, a man raps about acts of violence, boasting and talking, put like 30 in the clip and let them bullets fly. In another scene, the same individual is seen packaging cocaine. Investigators also uncovered videos filmed at locations where Latin Kings members had been deleted, with some videos containing threats to rival gangs. Officials believe that certain lyrics may serve as confessions to shootings involving other gang members. The Latin Kings have 11 active chapters in Massachusetts, according to the U.S. The Eastern region's criminal activities were allegedly overseen by Michael Ciccatelli, also known as King Merlin, a 40-year-old leader who controlled operations in 14 states, from Massachusetts to Florida, while residing in Springfield. Ciccatelli's orders were often violent, with instructions to target anyone who questioned his authority or cooperated with law enforcement. Throughout the investigation, law enforcement uncovered numerous plans for violent acts, repeatedly intercepting plots for attacks. Bonavolonta emphasized that the operation prevented several violent incidents, stating, "Time after time, we uncovered their planning of brazen acts of violence against those who ran afoul of the gang's manifesto and constitution." In fact, Lelling confirmed that the operation had prevented at least 8 planned deletions. The arrests made in Massachusetts occurred in cities such as Boston, Lowell, Springfield, Fitchburg, Chelsea, New Bedford, and Worcester. Law enforcement seized dozens of firearms, including machine guns and sawed-off shotguns, along with 6 cars, 6 motorcycles, 3 jet skis, an ATV, various drugs, and approximately $38,000 in cash. During the operation, 2 missing children aged 14 and 16 were also recovered. Additionally, 3 houses in New Bedford were seized, which Bonavolonta described as trap houses used by the Latin Kings to store and sell illegal narcotics, stash firearms, and film music videos glorifying violence. The sweeping indictments and arrests of various gangs in Massachusetts mark a significant blow to organized crime across the state. Operations targeting groups like the Latin Kings, NOB, and Heath Street Gang demonstrate law enforcement's commitment to dismantling violent criminal networks and restoring safety to affected communities. By seizing weapons, drugs, and large sums of cash, authorities have weakened the gang's grip on drug trafficking and disrupted their patterns of violence. As law enforcement continues to combat these organizations, the hope is that the arrests and convictions will have a lasting impact, reducing the influence of these gangs and allowing the communities they once terrorized to begin the process of healing. We've seen a rise in organized gang activity, with law enforcement across the state tackling various violent gangs involved in criminal enterprises ranging from drug trafficking to firearms offenses and racketeering. Gangs such as the G-Shine Bloods, 47 Neighborhood Crips, Grape Street Crips, and the Gotti Boy movement have been linked to shootings, homicides, and widespread drug distribution. These criminal organizations, which span Monmouth, Ocean, Bergen, and Burlington counties, have also engaged in schemes such as dogfighting rings and financial fraud, including misappropriation of COVID-19 relief funds. Efforts by state and local authorities have resulted in significant indictments and arrests, shedding light on the dangerous networks that threaten public safety across urban and suburban communities in New Jersey. As a leader of the G-Shyne Bloods, Xavier Reed was responsible for enforcing discipline, managing the gang's revenue streams from drug sales, and overseeing the operation of a lucrative dogfighting ring. These criminal activities funded the group's violent acts and helped Reed consolidate his power. To maintain control over illegal activities in Monmouth County, Reed employed intimidation tactics against those who showed disloyalty to him or the gang. He also sought to violently retaliate against former members and rivals. This included a conspiracy to two rivals and a member of a Lakewood-based G-Shyne set who resisted his efforts to merge the set into his organization. Reed was aware of the ongoing conflicts between rival street gangs, such as the G-Shyne Bloods and Grape Street Crips, and often bragged about uniting members from different gangs under a common criminal agenda. This alliance, which comprised of G-Shyne Bloods, 4-7 Neighborhood Crips, and the Grape Street Crips, referred to as Golden State, was prepared to retaliate against anyone who disrespected them. The gang's criminal enterprise involved the possession, distribution, and sale of firearms within the network and was linked to more than a dozen shooting incidents in areas such as Asbury Park, Long Branch, Tinton Falls, Keensburg, and Neptune Township. The investigation revealed that Reed and other affiliates, including Dacian Smith, known as Beefy from Asbury Park, were responsible for violent acts across Asbury Park, Freehold Borough, and Neptune Township. The dogfighting operation extended beyond state borders, working with breeding facilities that trained dogs to fight and participating in interstate dogfighting events. In one instance, Reed lost $5,000 on a dogfight in Philadelphia. He also boasted about feeding his fighting dogs chickens and rabbits. Attorney General Gerber S. Gruhl announced that a state grand jury has indicted the alleged leader and 16 members of a narcotics network connected to the Blood Street Gang, accused of distributing significant quantities of drugs in Paterson. Additionally, 16 more individuals face charges for narcotics possession, including 15 who allegedly purchased drugs from the network, bringing the total number of defendants to 34. The investigation targeted a drug trafficking ring based in Paterson's 4th Ward, specifically an area known as 4K or the Four Corners, encompassing intersections at Mercer Street and Putnam Street, Rosa Parks Boulevard and Putnam Street, Mercer Street and Warren Street, and Rosa Parks Boulevard and Warren Street. This area is notorious for open-air drug dealing and gun violence. The drug network was allegedly operated by a local Bloods faction called the 4K Bloods, or Corner Boys. In November, authorities apprehended most of the suspects, including the alleged ringleader, Jalmo Reese, 35, of Passaic and J, and one of his primary suppliers, Jesse Garcia, 27, of Lodi and J. Reese and several other defendants are said to be members of the 4K Bloods. During the crackdown, authorities executed a search warrant at Garcia's residence, seizing 90 pounds of that H, a handgun, hollow-point bullets, and over $19,000 in cash. In total, 3 firearms were confiscated during the investigation. The other members face various second- and third-degree drug charges, while the 16 alleged buyers face third-degree drug possession charges. State authorities have charged members of a Trenton gang with multiple violent crimes, including deletion, attempted deletion, and drug trafficking. The gang, known as the Get Money Boys, G&B, allegedly controlled the drug trade in a local neighborhood and was involved in several shootings over several months. Charles Willis, 27, the reputed leader of G&B, and 9 other gang members face various charges. In total, 16 members and associates of GMB are accused of distributing in the area around the Oakland Street apartments. The joint investigation by New Jersey State Police led to the seizure of multiple firearms and nearly 20,000 doses, stamped with labels such as Fruit Loops. According to Gruhl, one of the most serious charges involves Davian Fenderson, 25, who is accused of carrying out the demise of 32-year-old Michael Barnes on Willis's orders. Fenderson allegedly shot Barnes on Commonwealth Avenue in Trenton on December 27. Authorities arrested Willis and his girlfriend, 24-year-old Dacia M. Brown, at their Willingboro residence earlier this month. During the arrest, officers discovered a defaced firearm accessible to a toddler and an illegal high-capacity magazine. As a convicted felon, Willis now faces additional charges related to firearm possession and child endangerment. In a separate incident in February, GMB members allegedly fired at 2 men, causing their car to crash, and then shot at a police officer who witnessed the shooting. The officer, part of the New Jersey State Police Crime Suppression Central Unit Task Force, was in an unmarked vehicle when he saw the shooting near West State Street and Parkside Avenue. The suspects fired at the officer during a pursuit. Shaquan Hearns, 21, Dion Battle, 28, and Yohanan Salter, 28, have been charged with deletion of the officer. Additionally, Hearns faces charges for a separate incident last September, in which he allegedly shot a man in the leg on Lamberton Street. Another violent episode occurred when 5 GMB members reportedly opened fire on a group of people on Sandhagen Drive, injuring 2 men. Those charged in connection with the shooting include Willis David Williams, 28, Sean Anderson, 21, Zaire Jackson, 24, and an associate known as Hood. Attorney General Christopher Esperino announced that a state grand jury has indicted 27 individuals accused of being part of a gang-affiliated drug network distributing in Newark. Among the defendants, 18 are charged with first-degree gang criminality as alleged members of the Red Breed Guerrillas, a faction of the Blood Street Gang. Authorities discovered that the Red Breed Guerrillas maintained a structured hierarchy that controlled drug distribution in the Stratford Place area and Grace West Manor townhomes along Irvin Turner Boulevard in Newark. The gang's dominance in this territory contributed to increased violence and criminal activities. Investigators found that individuals who were not associated with the Red Breed Guerrillas faced violent consequences if they attempted to sell drugs within the gang's controlled area. Colonel Rick Fuentes, superintendent of the New Jersey State Police, added, "The Red Breed Guerrillas' control over this neighborhood not only endangered residents through drug trafficking, but also due to the violence associated with protecting their territory." The investigation revealed that the gang operated with a distinct hierarchical structure, reinforcing its grip over the area. Burlington County Prosecutor Scott Kofina and Pemberton Township Police Chief David King have announced charges against 6 members of a street gang based in Sunbury Village, known as the Gotti Boy Movement, GBM. The individuals are accused of running a criminal enterprise responsible for multiple shootings, including 2 deletions, as well as burglaries, witness intimidation, firearms possession, and fraudulently obtaining over $125,000 in pandemic relief funds. In addition, 8 others have been charged for their involvement in assisting GBM with a financial scam related to COVID-19 relief funds. The charges stem from criminal activities dating back to September 2014, when shots were fired at a Pemberton Township police officer in Sunbury Village, an attack allegedly involving gang members Brown and Carter. Among those facing charges is Clifton, who's awaiting trial for the 2017 demise of Shaquille Williams in Sunbury Village. His co-defendant, Douglas Lewis, was convicted in 2021 and sentenced to 58 years in prison. Recent violent acts tied to GBM members have occurred in areas beyond Pemberton Township. In April, Carter and Young were charged with the demise of 18-year-old Yasin Robinson in Willingboro. Investigators revealed that GBM had an ongoing conflict with residents of Willingboro's Buckingham Park neighborhood, where Robinson lived. Robinson, a high school student with no connection to the dispute, met his demise while returning home from work. A week later, shots were fired into a home in the same neighborhood, injuring a woman and grazing a toddler. Young has been charged in connection with both shootings. Carter and Young also faced firearms charges from a separate incident earlier this year, and Foreman was indicted in 2021 for witness tampering after making threatening phone calls from jail. The group, along with other defendants, is accused of filing multiple fraudulent Paycheck Protection Program (PPP) loan applications. The PPP, part of the 2020 CARES Act, was intended to provide financial relief to businesses affected by the pandemic. The scheme generated nearly $125,000 in funds through false applications filed by GBM members and associates. Carter, for instance, claimed to be a barber with an income of over $105,000 in 2019, despite being incarcerated that year. He had 5 associates, each received nearly $21,000 from the scam. 7 alleged members of the sex money murder faction of the Bloods gang have been arrested in connection with a beating and kidnapping of one of their own, according to Bergen County Prosecutor John L. Molinelli. Following a month-long investigation, the arrests were made based on an incident in North Arlington. Early in the morning on July 1st, police responded to a report near Bergen Avenue and 9th Street where they discovered a pickup truck with smashed windows. A female witness told police that several individuals in 2 vehicles had assaulted her boyfriend and forced him into one of the cars. She identified one vehicle as a burgundy Acura and provided a partial license plate number. By 10 a.m., police located the burgundy Acura outside an apartment building on President Street in North Arlington. Inside, they found Jesus Enrique Mart and his girlfriend, Yulissa Lorenzo Guerrero, who were taken into custody and charged with kidnapping and aggravated assault. Later that same day, authorities identified the occupants of the second vehicle, a white Honda, as Harold Williams and Diana Rodriguez, both residents of Garfield. They were arrested at their apartment on Outwater Lane and charged with the same offenses. Police located the victim in Passaic. He revealed that he was a former member of Sex Money Murder who had been attempting to leave the gang. After evading his former associates for months, he was attacked by 7 gang members, forced into a car at knife point, and driven to a pier likely in Hoboken or Jersey City, where he was officially expelled from the gang. He was then assaulted again and left in Passaic. The comprehensive investigations and subsequent indictments of gang members throughout New Jersey underscore the relentless efforts of law enforcement agencies to dismantle these violent organizations and curb their influence. From narcotics trafficking and organized crime to violent acts of retaliation and intimidation, these gangs have sown chaos across the state. However, through strategic law enforcement collaboration, numerous gang leaders and members have been brought to justice, providing communities with some measure of safety and security. The ongoing battle against gang-related crime in New Jersey is far from over, but the indictments and prosecutions represent a critical step forward in reclaiming neighborhoods and reducing the violence.
5 gang indictments in New York City.
Abdullah, how will you plead to the charges? Alleged Fivesley gang leader Abdullah Zika and other alleged accomplices were taken out of the 50th precinct in the Bronx.
Williams is just one of 32 people charged with various counts of murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, and assault in an investigation that goes back nearly 3 years.
New York City, with its vibrant culture and diverse population, has always been a melting pot of various influences. However, the city's underbelly reveals a darker side, marked by gang rivalries and violent confrontations. Recent indictments have brought to light the activities of several gangs operating within the city's boroughs. From the streets of Brooklyn to the parks of Queens, these gangs have left an indelible mark on the communities they inhabit. This report dives into 5 significant gang-related indictments that have recently rocked New York City, shedding light on the individuals involved, their alleged crimes, and the broader implications for the city's safety and security. At number 5, we have the Fivesley Gang.
Abdullah, how will you plead to the charges? Alleged Fivesley gang leader Abdullah Zika and other alleged accomplices were taken out of the 50th precinct in the Bronx to face a judge on multiple felony charges ranging from armed robberies to attempted murder.
In a significant development, the Bronx District Attorney, in collaboration with the police commissioner, has unveiled charges against 12 individuals believed to be members of the Fivesley crew. These charges encompass a range of violent crimes, including murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, and more, casting a shadow over the Bronx's safety. The Fivesley crew, an offshoot of the Bloodhound Brims gang, has been linked to a series of violent incidents across the Bronx. Disturbingly, many of these acts of violence took place in broad daylight, heightening the sense of fear among residents. Among the most harrowing incidents is the tragic death of Ariel Santos, a 32-year-old innocent bystander who was caught in a crossfire near 178th Street and Arthur Avenue. This incident underscores the indiscriminate nature of the gang's violent activities. The accused, all aged between 16 and 22, are believed to be responsible for 23 violent crimes. This tally includes 10 non-fatal shootings and 11 robberies, in addition to the aforementioned murder of Santos. The nature of these crimes paints a grim picture, with the gang targeting vulnerable individuals, including the elderly, cab drivers, and even an on-duty NYS parole officer. In several instances, victims were robbed at gunpoint or knife point, with some facing severe physical assault. 2 particular incidents highlight the audacity of the gang's operations. One involved a shooting near Ho Avenue in East 174th Street, where a mother and her 2 children were dangerously close to the 3 shots fired. Another saw a brazen shootout at 1825 Prospect Avenue, with a staggering 18 shots ringing out. At number 4, we have the Money World, local trap stars, and Never Forget Loyalty Gang indictment.
Officials think this could be the largest gang takedown in history.
10-year-old Amir Griffin in 2019. Griffin, a young innocent bystander, became an unintended victim of a gang member's bullet. Another notable case within the indictment is the killing of Sean Vance, which occurred on the eve of New Year's 2020 at Queen Street Gangs. Money World on one side and local trap stars coupled with never forget loyalty on the other. The animosity between these factions reached a boiling point following the murder of Amir Griffin in October 2019. Post this incident, the area witnessed a spike in violence, with over 22 reported shootings, one of which was fatal. The feud wasn't just confined to the streets. It spilled over to social media platforms and rap videos. Both factions took to these platforms, brazenly flaunting their violent escapades and ridiculing their adversaries. At number 3, we have the Seb Side and Third Side Gang indictment.
DOA City, 46 Park Avenue boys, bro. Gra. Now take this picture of jail. Jail Curry. Picture of jail Curry.
Y'all forgot I got all of the hits. Pop, Eli, James, Snitch. And we still smoke a ride the zip. Can't forget the little nasty. I remember I ran in the 6. Walk up blaming, fuck out the whip.
Wow, what the hell is that?
United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, in conjunction with NYPD Commissioner, has unveiled the unsealing of an indictment targeting members of 2 notorious Bronx gangs, Seb Side and Third Side. The spotlight of the indictment shines on several individuals, including Kevin Perez, known by his alias K-Flock, Devin Mason, Arvin Beeman, Nicholas Johnson, Sean Smith, and Jossie Castro, all affiliated with the Seb Side Gang. From the Third Side Gang, Ishaya Rosen and Michael Gant have been implicated in a superseding indictment. The charges encompass a range of criminal activities, notably racketeering, conspiracy, and other violent offenses. A standout charge is against Perez aka K-Flock, who is accused of orchestrating the gang-related assassination of Huáscar Hernández on December 16, 2021, in Hamilton Heights, Upper Manhattan. The indictment further details charges related to attempted murder and assault with a dangerous weapon, which are tied to a series of 7 shootings that occurred in the Bronx between June 2020 and February 2022. Both gangs, operating predominantly within the 48th precinct in the Bronx, have a track record of violent confrontations with rival street factions. Their audacity is further exemplified by their brazen promotion of their illicit activities on social media platforms and through music that alludes to real-life violent incidents. Their sphere of influence and disputes weren't confined to the Bronx. They extended their reign of terror to Manhattan, resulting in multiple violent confrontations. The gravity of the charges is evident in the potential penalties. Kevin Perez aka K-Flock, for instance, is staring down the barrel of charges that include racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, and use of a firearm resulting in death. If convicted, he could face mandatory life imprisonment or even the death penalty. Devin Mason and Arvin Beeman are also grappling with severe charges, with potential penalties ranging from mandatory minimum sentences of 10 to 20 years to life imprisonment. At number 2, we have the MS-13 gang indictment in Long Island. On October 4, 2023, an 11-count indictment was unveiled, targeting 2 reputed members of the notorious MS-13 gang, Carlos Humberto Aquino Hernández, known by the aliases Capricoso and Flaco, and Gerson Hernández, who goes by several monikers including Stephen Jefferson, Jeffrey, Sirio, Serioso, and Nicio. Despite being part of different cliques within the MS-13 gang, the duo faces a slew of charges that underscore the gang's violent and criminal activities. The indictment encompasses a range of offenses, from racketeering in relation to 2 distinct murders to a narcotics trafficking conspiracy. The charges further delve into specifics, including murder, conspiracy to commit murder, firearms offenses, and narcotics trafficking. The first murder, which took place on July 19, 2022, in Uniondale Park, saw the tragic demise of Walter Ochoa. MS-13 members believed Ochoa was affiliated with a rival gang and targeted him in a retaliatory strike for the killing of one of their own. The second incident occurred on September 14, 2022, at a McDonald's drive-thru in Hempstead. Surveillance footage from the scene captured the harrowing moments leading up to the murder of Hector Valencia Gomez. The video shows Gomez being pursued by Hernández and another MS-13 associate, culminating in Aquino Hernández delivering the fatal shot. Beyond these violent acts, the indictment also sheds light on the duo's involvement in a conspiracy to distribute narcotics, specifically cocaine and marijuana, in Long Island. The proceeds from these illicit activities were funneled to bolster the MS-13's criminal operations. This indictment is not an isolated event, but is part of a broader federal initiative aimed at neutralizing the MS-13 gang. This violent transnational criminal syndicate has its leadership roots entrenched in Central America. Given the gravity of the charges, if found guilty, both Aquino Hernandez and Hernandez could be staring down the barrel of life imprisonment or even the death penalty. At number 1, we have the 8 Trey gangster Crips and 9-way gang indictment.
2 rappers, including Chef G, now under indictment for gang violence that terrorized neighborhoods in Central and South Brooklyn.
Williams is just one of 32 people charged with various counts of murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, and assault in an investigation that goes back nearly 3 years.
These are subjects that woke up and lived every single day with one objective, and that was to benefit the gang, gain clout for the gang.
I'll keep it real, baby. I'll keep it 100.
As rapper Chef G, Williams was a pioneer in what's known as drill, a dark, particularly aggressive genre of hip-hop that critics say glorifies gang violence and retribution. His videos have been viewed hundreds of millions of times. Among those charged is Williams' protege, Tegan Chambers, known as Sleepy Hollow. Yet despite his fame and fortune, or perhaps because of it, investigators say Williams was willing to risk everything.
Brooklyn-based rapper Michael Williams, more popularly known by his stage name Chef G, has been implicated in a series of violent incidents that have rocked the borough. Alongside Williams, 31 other individuals have been charged, with the crimes resulting in the tragic death of 1 individual and injuries to 12 others. The individuals charged are believed to be members of the notorious 8 Trey Crips gang and its affiliate, the 9 Ways gang. Their alleged criminal activities span a range of offenses, from shootings and firearm possession to using stolen vehicles in their operations. These acts were primarily targeted at rival gang members, notably from groups such as the Folk Nation Gangster Disciples and ICG Babies. The indictment, which is extensive, encompasses 27 violent incidents, of which 12 are shootings. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez has shed light on Williams aka Chef G dual life. While on one hand, he was a successful rapper, on the other, he allegedly used the proceeds from his music career to further the violent objectives of his gang. There are claims that Chef G incentivized violence by offering monetary rewards and lavish jewelry to those who carried out violent acts on behalf of the gang. One of the most harrowing incidents detailed in the indictment is a mass shooting that occurred on October 21, 2020. Surveillance footage captured Commander Ducatu, one of the accused, firing indiscriminately from a vehicle. This act resulted in the death of Theodore Sr., a rival gang member, and injuries to 5 other individuals. In the aftermath of this tragic event, Chef G alleged to have hosted a celebratory dinner in Manhattan, marking the death of Sr. and the injuries sustained by the other victims. Ducatu now faces murder charges for his role in the incident. Meanwhile, other members, including Williams and his sister, Crystal Williams, have been slapped with charges of conspiracy to commit murder. During a press briefing, the district attorney underscored the significant role played by Chef G within the gang's hierarchy. He also highlighted the rapper's alleged misuse of his music earnings to perpetuate and escalate gang-related violence in Brooklyn. The recent spate of gang-related indictments in New York City underscores the challenges law enforcement agencies face in ensuring the safety and security of its residents. The intertwining of music, social media, and gang culture has added a new dimension to these challenges. While the indictments represent a significant step in holding those responsible accountable, they also serve as a stark reminder of the ongoing battle against gang violence. The city's resilience and the relentless efforts of its law enforcement agencies are testament to New York's commitment to curbing this menace and ensuring a safer environment for all its inhabitants.
Busting in for the takedown. This is what it takes, police say, to rid the streets of some of the city's most notorious gang members. From the Wu and Chu gangs. Their main focus, allegedly, is violence and vengeance.
Members of one of the city's most violent gangs are behind bars this afternoon. They're part of the Trinitarios gang that calls itself OED, which stands for Own Every Dollar. They operate
their gang.
They did so violently, investigators say. Over the course of 3.5 years, they carried out at least 32 violent
Law enforcement agencies in New York have been conducting extensive investigations to combat the persistent threat of gang-related violence and criminal activities in the city. The latest wave of indictments targets various gangs, including the Martens Beverly Bosses, MBB, G-Side Drilly Gang, Own Every Dollar, OD, and the rival groups Wu and Cho, all of which are implicated in a series of violent incidents across different neighborhoods. These gangs are accused of engaging in racketeering, drug trafficking, illegal firearms possession, and a slew of violent acts, including fatal and non-fatal shootings. The efforts of federal and local authorities aim to disrupt the operations of these criminal organizations, restore safety to affected communities, and hold those responsible for the violence accountable.
Busting in for the takedown. This is what it takes, police say, to rid the streets of some of the city's most notorious gang members. From the Wu and Chu gangs, their main focus allegedly is violence and vengeance. Police say Cook orchestrated the mid-afternoon shooting outside of a Brooklyn doctor's office, caught on surveillance video. Perhaps the saddest case is 3-year-old Tiara Atkins being shot right outside of her daycare center. Surveillance video shows the intense moments the toddler is holding her father's hands before police say a Chu member, Dalik Habasham, pulled the trigger. Thankfully, she survived. The two gangs have been terrorizing communities in Brownsville and in Flatbush over the course of a 2-year war. Police say shooting at each other, then bragging about their victims on social media in drill rap videos. But with many of the key players behind bars,
a total of 106 counts have been brought against 32 defendants, 13 alleged members of the Wu group, and 19 alleged members of the Cho group. The indictments are the result of a comprehensive investigation led by the District Attorney's Violent Criminal Enterprises Bureau and the NYPD's Gun Violence Suppression Division. This investigation, spanning from the spring of 2020 to November 2022, focused on two rival groups operating out of several neighboring housing complexes in Brownsville. Wu is based in the Seth Lowe houses, Van Dyke houses, Langston Hughes houses, Glenmore Plaza, and Brownsville houses. This group is comprised of several subsets, including OMB, 1800, Gorilla Stone Bloods, Macballer Bloods, 5-9 Brim, Yawa, and Pistol Pac and Pitkin, PPP. Cho, on the other hand, operates from the Tilden houses, Howard houses, Marcus Garvey Village, Newport Gardens, and Riverdale Towers. Their ranks include subsets such as Folk Nation, also known as Gangster Disciples, Move in Silence, MIS, and Hood Stars. The dividing line between these two territories is often marked by Dumont Avenue, with some housing complexes under the control of both groups located along the same streets. The prolonged rivalry between these organizations is rooted in the desire to maintain control over their respective territories and to assert dominance over each other. This ongoing conflict has led to frequent acts of violence. Much of the animosity intensified following the deletion of Wu member Shamil Boomer on July 10, 2020. While Boomer's deletion was allegedly carried out by a member of the Bergen Fam group, both Bergen Fam and Cho celebrated the incident. This act of disrespect became a catalyst for further conflict, with Wu members vowing to retaliate against their rivals, including Cho, in what they referred to on social media as the Boomin' for Boomer movement. In response, Cho members also engaged in violent acts against Wu members and those perceived to be aligned with them. During the period covered by the indictments, there were 27 incidents, including 2 fatal shootings and 17 non-fatal shootings, which left 14 individuals injured. Over 25 firearms were reportedly used in these violent acts, and 27 firearms were recovered during the investigation. The indictments indicate that many of these incidents were captured on surveillance video and that the defendants boasted about their actions on social media and in music videos, discussing and taking credit for acts of violence. The first fatal incident mentioned in the indictment occurred on July 5, 2020, when Cho member Corey Henry allegedly entered Wu territory at the Glenmore Plaza housing complex and fatally shot Wu member Jarl Goss. The second occurred on July 12, 2022, when Cho member Shocker Bartley allegedly shot and fatally injured Tyree McLaughlin, a Wu member, outside the Brownsville houses, which are considered Wu territory. Other significant incidents charged in the indictments include the following. On March 25, 2022, it is alleged that Dalik Habersham traveled in a BMW driven by Princess Chambers to Riverdale Avenue, where he believed a Wu member resided. Once there, Habersham allegedly exited the vehicle and fired in the direction of a man who was placing a young child in his car, mistakenly believing the man to be a rival. The child, a 3-year-old girl, was struck in the shoulder. The next day, Habersham allegedly sent a screenshot of a news article about the incident to a private Instagram group, followed by the message, "Did bad." On April 14, 2021, Tro member Parnell Brown was reportedly struck by a Hyundai Sonata driven by Wu member Davian Thompson as Brown attempted to cross the street. After being thrown onto the hood and then to the ground, Brown allegedly pursued the vehicle on foot and fired shots at it as it sped away. It is further alleged that Thompson drove directly to Saks Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, where surveillance footage captured him shopping at the luxury store. On October 6, 2020, Wu member Lawrence Cook allegedly summoned fellow members Elijah Griffith and Avani Stephen after spotting a rival Tro member in a doctor's office waiting room. Griffith and Stephen reportedly arrived and waited nearby until the Tro member exited the office with his mother and young siblings at approximately 2:50 p.m. As the family entered their vehicle, Griffith allegedly fired multiple shots at the vehicle, following Wu's purported policy of shoot on sight.
Every single day, just to live a life exclusively to benefit their gang.
They did so violently, investigators say. Over the course of 3.5 years, they carried out at least 32 drill rap videos made against any perceived threat to the gang.
They call people out directly. They make fun of incidents, individuals that have perished prior to gunfire, opposing gang members.
One of those locations is here on East Fordham Road. You see it's a busy shopping area. Two of the suspects, both under 18 years old, allegedly shot at someone here in the middle of the day. That was in 2020.
In the aftermath of the NYPD's Operation Drilly investigation.
These are the trigger pullers, the very few individuals that make it uncomfortable and downright dangerous for all the great people. And this gang conducted wolf pack-like searches throughout the investigation. What are they looking for? They're hunting opposing gang members.
According to the investigation, the defendants, alleged members of the G-Side Drilly Gang, a subset of blood, sex, money, murder, are accused of engaging in a series of violent acts between September 20th, 2018 and March 15, 2022. These incidents reportedly took place primarily in the areas of East Gun Hill Road, Hall Avenue, and Decatur Avenue. During this period, the defendants are alleged to have carried out multiple incidents of violence, including fatal and non-fatal shootings and stabbings, resulting in the deletion of 2 individuals and injuries to 6 others. Defendants, who are also prominent in the drill rap scene, are accused of boasting about these violent acts in music videos posted on YouTube. The investigation led to the seizure of 18 firearms. Additionally, 3 defendants have been charged with committing violent acts while held at Rikers Island. One notable incident occurred on January 9, 2019, when, at approximately 1 o'clock, 4 defendants, including 1 teenager, along with other individuals, allegedly surrounded an 18-year-old CUNY prep student as he was leaving school and attempted to rob him. The defendants reportedly attacked the victim with multiple weapons, including a knife, resulting in serious injuries that required emergency medical intervention and life-saving blood transfusions. The incident was captured on video surveillance. On July 20th, 2020, in front of 3343 Decatur Avenue, 6 defendants, 2 of whom were teenagers at the time, allegedly pursued James Rivera, 24. 4 defendants reportedly fired multiple shots at Rivera, and 1 defendant allegedly attempted to stab him after he fell to the ground. Rivera ultimately succumbed to a gunshot wound to the back. On September 29th, 2020, at approximately 2 o'clock, 2 juvenile defendants allegedly fired shots at their intended target in a busy commercial area near a subway station on East Fordham Road, putting the lives of numerous bystanders, including children, at risk. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. On April 25, 2021, inside the Robert Ann Devorance Center on Rikers Island, 3 defendants are accused of assaulting a rival group member. Another incident occurred on March 17, 2021, when 4 defendants reportedly entered an apartment on Hall Avenue and allegedly shot Delilah Vasquez, 20, at close range. Surveillance footage shows the defendants entering and leaving the building. On June 28, 2021, at approximately 10 o'clock, 2 defendants allegedly fired multiple shots at their target in front of 3573 DeKalb Avenue. The shooting resulted in injuries to 3 uninvolved bystanders, a 66-year-old woman, a 39-year-old man, and a 31-year-old man. On the evening of October 22, 2021, 2 defendants reportedly waited outside a barber shop on East Gun Hill Road for about 15 minutes before entering and allegedly firing multiple shots at their intended target. The individual, who was getting a haircut at the time, attempted to take cover but was struck in the stomach and leg. He was transported to the hospital and survived the injuries. Surveillance footage shows patrons in the barbershop running for cover during the incident.
Tonight, 18 alleged gang members and their friends indicted on dozens of charges, including shootings like this one in the Kings Plaza Mall in Brooklyn, when members of the Martens Beverly Bosses saw rival gang members at the mall. Cops say this is a big deal. Here's Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett.
The Kings Plaza Mall, 5:30 in the afternoon. A young man with a gun aims and fires at a rival gang member. The gun jams, the clip falls out, and there's pandemonium. Committed by members of the Martens Beverly Bosses, a violent street gang affiliated with the notorious gang known as the Bloods.
During the course of this investigation, we saw members firing indiscriminately during daylight hours in the crowds with total disregard to innocent persons as well as rival gangs.
District Attorney announced an indictment involving alleged members of the Martens Beverly Bosses, MBB, a group reportedly affiliated with the 5'9 Brims, a subset of the larger Bloods gang. MBB is said to have operated primarily in and around the East Flatbush area of Brooklyn. The indictment details a series of activities between June 1, 2016 and June 14, 2018. During which MBB was allegedly engaged in conflicts with several rival groups such as the Folk Nation. Numerous other violent incidents, including 2 fatal shootings, are described in the indictment as part of this ongoing rivalry. Recorded conversations among MBB members allegedly revealed frequent discussions about who was up on the scoreboard, referring to acts of violence between the gangs. The members reportedly used coded language, referring to firearms as ball kicks and missed shots as air balls. Incarcerated members were allegedly referred to as bench warmers. The indictment also claims that MBB kept incarcerated members informed about the group's activities, including arrests, acts of violence, and other events involving the gang. One incident detailed in the indictment occurred on July 8, 2017, at around 5:40 p.m., when Quentin Raymond, Jeremy Deneau, and Stephen Daly were at Kings Plaza Mall and spotted members of a rival gang. After attempting unsuccessfully to lure the rivals outside, Daly allegedly handed a firearm to Raymond, who tried to fire it but managed only a single shot as the gun reportedly jammed. Another incident occurred on September 16, 2017 at approximately 4:25 a.m. when Donovan Frazier was allegedly deleted by Jermaine Carrington while exiting Franklin's Finest Deli in Crown Heights. Frazier was reportedly associated with Lincoln Fam, a rival group to MBB. On October 20, 2017, Jave Duncan and several others were walking along Linden Boulevard when Duncan allegedly fired 6 shots from a .380 caliber pistol at a rival, striking him once in the foot. The indictment also describes an incident on April 1, 2018, when Kobe Franklin, Harold Phillips, and 2 others allegedly left Phillips's residence and entered rival territory. Franklin is accused of carrying the firearm to and from the scene, while Phillips is alleged to have used it to delete Jerome Spence, a 26-year-old construction worker.
10 members of one of the city's most violent gangs are behind bars this afternoon. They're part of the Trinitarios gang that calls itself OED, which stands for Own Every Dollar. They operated mainly in Washington Heights, also in the Bronx, though, and Queens. They're charged with narcotics conspiracy. The defendants are accused of selling several drugs, including fentanyl.
High-end heists, a shootout with police, and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of watches and jewelry. It's all in a night's work for alleged members of the OED, or Own Every Dollar crew, which may be an affiliate of the notorious Trinitarios gangs. Now time may be running out for them. A high-end armed robbery ring believed to be responsible for a dozen or more heists throughout the city were at it again outside the trendy Pergola restaurant in the Nomad district about 1:15 Monday morning. Police say officers tried to pull over 2 suspects in a BMW they believed was connected to previous crimes, but the driver sped up and jumped a curb.
Federal prosecutors in New York have unsealed a superseding indictment charging more than a dozen members of the criminal street gang Own Every Dollar, OD, with racketeering, robbery, illegal firearms possession, narcotics trafficking, and both attempted and completed deletions. OED, a subset of the Trinitarios gang, operated mainly in and around Washington Heights, as well as in the Bronx and Queens. The group is known for its use of extreme violence to further its criminal activities. The 16 defendants are accused of distributing various narcotics. The indictment alleges that they sold drugs to undercover police officers and were frequently apprehended with narcotics prepackaged for sale. Many of the defendants allegedly posted photos and videos of themselves holding firearms on social media. The indictment links the group to at least 5 fatal incidents, including the deletion of 41-year-old Anthony Savarese on February 7, 2022, the deletions of 30-year-old Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera on July 2, 2020, the deletion of 22-year-old Nicholas Vargas Jr. on August 31, 2018, and the deletion of Hector Cruz on April 14, 2019. The document details numerous acts of violence committed by the defendants. On August 31, 2018, Jawinky Nunez Jr. allegedly shot Nicholas Vargas near 232nd Street in the Bronx. On April 14, 2019, Nunez Jr. and Jaron Pina allegedly targeted Hector Cruz near West 135th Street in Manhattan. On January 24, 2020, Nunez Jr., Brian Hernandez, Wilson Mendez, Stephen Joaquin, and Argenis Tavares allegedly fired at a rival group member near West 136th Street in Manhattan. In February 2020, Nunez Jr., Pina, Hernandez, and Tavares allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 138th Street in Manhattan. On March 30, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Joaquin allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 180th Street in Manhattan. On April 18, 2020, Nunez Sir allegedly fired at an individual near Audubon Avenue in Manhattan. Other incidents include a shooting on May 13, 2020, when Justin Diza and Mendez allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers near West 184th Street in Manhattan. On May 15, 2020, Hernandez allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 188th Street in Manhattan. On June 26, 2020, Nunez Jr., Joaquin, and Ira Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers during a high-speed pursuit in Washington Heights. On July 2, 2020, Nunez Jr., Hernandez, and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly deleted Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera near Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. On July 5, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 136th Street in Manhattan. On July 18, 2020, Nunez Jr. allegedly fired at an individual near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. On October 22, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Diza allegedly fired at individuals near Valentine Avenue in the Bronx. On December 13, 2020, Mendez allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 188th Street in Manhattan. The indictment further describes incidents involving internal conflicts and violent confrontations between the gang members themselves. For example, on August 12, 2021, Hugo Rodriguez and Nunez Sir allegedly engaged in a shootout with each other near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. In August 2021, Diza allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 28th Street in Manhattan. In September 2021, Diza allegedly attempted another armed robbery near the FDR Drive in Manhattan and, along with Mendez, committed an armed robbery in Queens. On January 22, 2022, Nunez Jr., Pina, Trey, and Joaquin allegedly committed an armed robbery and fired shots at several individuals near West 145th Street in Manhattan. On February 7, 2022, Melvin X. Rodriguez allegedly deleted Anthony Savarese near Andrews Avenue in the Bronx. On February 14, 2022, Hugo Rodriguez and Trey allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 203rd Street in Manhattan. Finally, on March 4, 2022, Nunez Jr. and Trey allegedly fired at a rival gang member near Dyckman Street in Manhattan. The indictments of these gang members represent a significant step forward in addressing the challenges posed by organized crime and gang violence in New York City. By bringing these individuals to justice, law enforcement agencies are working to dismantle dangerous networks and protect communities from further harm. While these legal actions mark progress, sustained efforts and community engagement will be crucial in maintaining safety and preventing future.
Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that true? What? Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that
Today that he believes these 17 alleged gang members are behind. The members are part of 3 violent street gangs that formed an alliance called YPF.
Executing an arrest warrant. And a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son, a suspected gang member.
In recent years, law enforcement agencies across New York City have undertaken extensive investigations targeting violent street gangs responsible for a wave of criminal activities and shootings. These efforts have led to the indictment of numerous individuals from various gangs, including H-Block/Billy's, Slattery, 1300, Chico Gang, and the YPF Alliance. Operating in neighborhoods such as Crown Heights, Bedford-Stuyvesant, East Harlem, and the Bronx, these groups have been linked to multiple acts of violence, including shootings, robberies, and conspiracy charges. The investigations aim to dismantle these organizations and restore safety to communities plagued by gang-related violence.
New York cops taking down some young gang members in Brooklyn, some of them barely teenagers. And there's no shortage of surveillance video of the shootings that cops say involved mostly innocent bystanders. Nearly 20 accused gang members now busted for all kinds of charges, including
18 alleged gang members charged in 3 indictments with murder, weapons possession, and other charges. Detectives connected the defendants to 10 shootings that injured 10 people, 8 of them innocent bystanders. Police launched their investigation in the summer of 2021.
The investigation focused on street gangs operating along the border of Crown Heights and Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn. 15 of the defendants are reportedly members of the H-Block Billy's Gang, an alliance between a 5'9" Brim Blood set and a 9 Trey Blood set, with key locations at 260 to 280 Herkimer Street and 1625 Fulton Street in Crown Heights. The remaining 3 defendants are said to be members of the Gates Fam Street Gang, a subset of the Bloods, which operates around the Louis Armstrong houses and 523 Gates Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant. The indictment alleges that members of the H-Block Billy's gang conspired to delete members of opposing gangs, often discussing their plans on social media through recorded jail conversations and via text messages. Some defendants were found with photos and videos of themselves handling or discussing firearms. Between August 2021 and the date of the indictment, the defendants are accused of carrying out numerous shootings and acts of violence to maintain control over their territory and assert dominance over rival gangs. According to the indictment, the alleged conspiracy began in August 2021 with a series of 3 shootings by H-Block Billy's members within a 2-hour span. These incidents resulted in the deletion of 16-year-old Yaquan Gaz, a member of Gates Fam, and injuries to 3 others, including an innocent bystander mistaken for a rival. The second deletion cited in the indictment occurred on June 25, 2022, when 16-year-old Nashawn Campbell, an associate of a rival gang, was fatally shot in Brownsville's Dr. Green playground. H-Block members Nishon Perry, Demetri Genjax, and Isaiah Charles are charged in connection with this incident, allegedly targeting Campbell while searching for rival gang members. The indictment further details several additional shootings carried out by H-Block Billy's members. On April 12, 2022, Malcolm Davis and Shamari Griffith allegedly left their base at 260 Herkimer Street and traveled to 471 Gates Avenue, where they reportedly opened fire, injuring 3 bystanders. The victims included a 29-year-old man who sustained a spinal cord injury, a 42-year-old man with a graze wound, and a 45-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the thigh. On August 18, 2022, in Folk Nation gang territory, defendants Perry and Jamori Foster allegedly opened fire on a vehicle occupied by 4 people, shattering windows and causing damage, though no injuries were reported. On August 21, 2022, Charles Genjax and another unidentified individual allegedly opened fire on a crowd during a video shoot for a rapper associated with a rival gang, Lincoln Fam. The shooting resulted in a leg injury to a videographer and damage to several cars in the area. The indictment also mentions an incident on October 2, 2023, when Gates Fam member David Robinson allegedly attempted to run over H-Block member Michael Hammond with his vehicle. After crashing into a city bike rack and knocking down a fire department pole, Hammond reportedly fired shots at Robinson's vehicle, striking him in the shoulder.
What police call the takedown of some of the most violent gang members they've ever seen.
All right, Lisa Evers joins us now with her exclusive look with the NYPD. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, we had that firsthand look at how the NYPD is bringing alleged gang members who terrorize their own community to justice. And now the Bronx DA says they've been charged in a 176-count felony indictment.
Nay Benz, police say you're a trigger puller. Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that true? What? Police say you're a trigger puller. Is that?
The targets are 20 members of the Slattery Gang based out of Slattery Playground in the Fordham section of the Bronx. That's aspiring drill rapper Nay Benz, who police say is one of the gang leaders. The average age of the case subjects is 20. Teen girls are trigger pullers too. Like the
District Attorney Clark announced an indictment involving 17 males and 3 females associated with the Slattery, also known as Slattery Gang, which operates near Slattery Playground on East 183rd Street. The 176-count indictment includes charges of second-degree conspiracy, attempted deletion in the second degree, first-degree robbery, first-degree assault, second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, attempted gang assault in the first degree, second-degree robbery, and other related offenses. The charges stem from an 18-month investigation conducted by the Bronx District Attorney's Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau and the NYPD Gun Violence Suppression Division. The investigation alleges that members of the gang conspired to possess firearms and commit violent acts against rival gang members between June 15, 2020 and June 27, 2024. This period included 14 shooting incidents, a violent altercation involving a sharp object inside Bronx Supreme Court, a carjacking at gunpoint, a stabbing, and multiple instances of illegal gun possession. The investigation revealed that members of Slattery use social media platforms, particularly Instagram and Facebook, to threaten rival gangs and promote their activities. They also posted drill rap videos on YouTube, where they boasted about various shooting incidents and mocked deleted rivals. 15 handguns and pistols were recovered during the investigation. One of the incidents occurred on June 18, 2020, when defendants Nazim King and Darren Williams allegedly ran toward a group of people playing cards at Morris Avenue and East 184th Street. King reportedly fired at least 6 shots, injuring 3 individuals who were not involved in gang activity. Shortly after the incident, Williams was shot by members of a rival gang, and King allegedly fired multiple shots in retaliation. Another incident took place on July 11, 2020, when King and Phoenix Charlie reportedly went to East 194th Street and Briggs Avenue. Charlie allegedly fired 4 shots intended for a rival, but instead struck a bystander. On January 27, 2023, Charlie and others encountered members of a rival gang in the Bronx Hall of Justice, outside the youth part on the 5th floor. They allegedly assaulted the rival group, and Charlie is accused of using sharp objects to inflict a large laceration on one individual, resulting in a wound from the lower chest to the abdomen that required 35 stitches. Later that day, Charlie reportedly posted on social media about the incident, claiming the courthouse as his territory. A week earlier, Charlie had shared a video on Instagram demonstrating how to smuggle scalpels into the courthouse.
Police announcing their arrival, executing an arrest warrant, and a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son, a suspected gang member. She put up a fight. After minutes of tense moments in a small vestibule, police were able to get control and get her 20-year-old son in handcuffs. They say he's a member of the 1300 crew.
You're probably the most violent guys that are still out on the street.
Police say the 1300 crew is responsible for wreaking havoc throughout the North Bronx, on the streets, in subways, and in NYCHA. Surveillance video shows a drive-by shooting, and it's not just gun violence. The crew allegedly went on a 6-day robbery spree 2 years ago. They brutally attacked an off-duty officer while he was on a morning jog.
I have so much pain, in my back, my shoulder, my head.
Pix 11 News spoke exclusively with Officer Mohammed Chaudhry after he was released from the hospital.
According to the prosecution, alleged members and associates of the 1300 gang, reportedly named after 213th Street, have been charged in connection with 6 shooting incidents that occurred in or near the Gun Hill section of the Bronx between April and September 2022. Defendants Kaishawn Johnson, Dreshawn Lucas, and Omari Connor were arraigned before Bronx Supreme Court Justice Seth Steed in late July and early August 2024. All 3 were remanded into custody, with Johnson and Lucas scheduled to appear in court again on October 4, 2024, and Connor due back on August 15, 2024. The nearly 2-year investigation, led by the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau, and the NYPD Criminal Enterprise Investigation Section, began following the violent robbery of off-duty NYPD officer Mohammed Chaudhry, who was jogging in Castle Hill. During the robbery, Chaudhry was knocked to the ground, punched, and kicked, resulting in severe injuries that left him hospitalized for over 2 weeks and caused life-altering harm. 3 defendants in the 1300 indictment, Jordan Sewell, Ashawn Logan, and Matthew Pinnock, have pleaded guilty to first-degree assault and additional charges related to the Chowdhury incident. 2 have been sentenced to 7 years in prison, while the third awaits sentencing. On April 12, 2022, one of the defendants reportedly boarded an empty bus and pursued a group of people after disembarking. He allegedly fired multiple shots on East 225th Street, one of which struck a 15-year-old girl in the leg as she exited the bus. On April 26, 2022, another defendant allegedly opened fire in front of 3491 Baychester Avenue, a heavily crowded area, while chasing an individual. On August 17, 2022, 13 defendants allegedly gathered at Matthew Pinnock's residence before executing 2 drive-by shootings targeting rival gang members. 4 of them reportedly left the home around midnight carrying at least 3 firearms and fired multiple shots at a residence on Fish Avenue. They then proceeded to another location on Crotona Avenue and fired at an individual. On August 23, 2022, 5 defendants, suspecting a rival gang member was near one of their homes, allegedly went to Grove Street and Prospect Avenue and opened fire. During the incident, a 73-year-old woman was struck by a bullet in her left leg while sitting outside a building, resulting in life-altering injuries. On August 27, 2022, one defendant attended a candlelight vigil at the Parkside houses for a deletion victim. Upon spotting a rival gang member, he allegedly fired a shot at the individual and then discarded his firearm. He was apprehended after a foot pursuit. According to the indictment, on September 9, 2022, Garcia, 19, allegedly engaged in an altercation with a rival gang member after school. He then reportedly communicated with Johnson, 23, and instructed him to retrieve a firearm from an apartment on Fish Avenue. Garcia allegedly took the firearm from Johnson, proceeded to the Pelham Parkway houses, and fired at least 13 shots into a crowd, injuring 4 innocent bystanders.
Deputy Chief Brian McGee prepares the dozens of officers heading out to arrest 5 suspected members of the Chico gang. 9 others in the 13-man indictment are already in custody.
They're a violent gang. Their main motive is just to benefit the gang by violence.
We ride along with the squad to the Wagner houses, where they go into one apartment building with shields and rams. As some detectives keep lookout at the exits, the squad steps into the dark stairwell.
There are so many good people out of the Wagner houses, and it's the small amount of people doing the crime and the violence out there.
Back at the precinct, police also bring in 20-year-old Melvin Williams, who was arrested at the second search warrant location.
Innocent, like that's all I gotta do, stop innocent.
This case.
More than a dozen individuals associated with an East Harlem street gang have been indicted as part of a major operation conducted by law enforcement and prosecutors. The group, identified as the Chico Gang, has been accused of engaging in violent activities in 2 public housing projects since 2018. The indictment, which charges 13 members, alleges involvement in a series of violent acts, including shootings that injured a dozen people, among them 4 uninvolved bystanders, including a 12-year-old child. According to the indictments, the Chico Gang operated primarily out of the Wagner Houses public housing complex, with much of the violence directed at a rival group in the nearby Jefferson houses. Prosecutors indicated that the gang members used digital platforms such as Snapchat and Instagram to communicate and plan their activities, often coordinating crimes through Facebook group chats and instant messages. In one instance, an alleged gang member mentioned in a March 2019 chat that somebody is going to get hurt Saturday. In another message from January 2020, a gang member expressed a willingness to provide firearms to anyone interested in committing acts of violence. These messages were part of the evidence presented in the indictment. The documents also reveal that on July 19, 2023, a suspect, Melvin Williams, posted on Snapchat about feeling targeted, stating, "A lot of people are hitting the ground. I think my time is next because I can't run, but believe I will defend myself." Shortly afterward, he shared a video showing himself holding a silver firearm to another person's head. Williams, 20, was among those arraigned on charges of conspiracy, attempted deletion, attempted assault, and weapons possession.
17 alleged members of 3 Brooklyn gangs were indicted. CBS 2's Natalie Duddridge has more from downtown Brooklyn.
Video shows 2 men with dark hoodies walk into an Albany Avenue apartment and up the stairs where police say a Sweet 16 birthday was underway. Another man at the door pulls out a gun and starts shooting. It happened November 2020. Police say the intended target was this man in the elevator, believed to be a member of a rival gang. In total, 9 people were shot. A 20-year-old woman from Virginia district attorney outlined today that he believes these 17 alleged gang members are behind. The members are part of 3 violent street gangs that formed an an alliance called YPF.
The alleged gang members are in custody, including 17-year-old Giovanni Bennett. He's accused of firing a gun right outside of Metrotech in broad daylight. A bullet hit a 19-year-old college student, an innocent bystander. Police also arrested these two 17-year-olds in connection to a mass shooting. 8 people shot. 1 died outside the Eleanor Roosevelt houses over the summer.
The District Attorney's Office has announced the results of a long-term investigation conducted by the Violent Criminal Enterprises Bureau and the NYPD's Brooklyn North Violent Crime Squad into the alleged violent activities of 3 street gangs that formed an alliance. The groups identified as FNO Fear No One, based in Fort Greene, PPP Pistol Packing Pickin', based in East New York, and Yawa, Young and Wild and Hustling, based in Brownsville, collectively refer to themselves as YPF. The alliance was reportedly created to expand their influence and territory, allowing them to coordinate acts of violence against common adversaries and to establish control over geographic areas. According to the allegations, the alliance provided members with greater access to firearms and enabled them to move freely through each other's neighborhoods, effectively increasing their operational reach and allowing them to target rival groups more effectively. The YPF alliance's territory is said to include several areas in Brooklyn. The Langston Hughes, Van Dyke, and Seth Lowe houses in the 73rd Precinct, Brownsville, which is recognized as Yawa's area, the vicinity of 2211 Pitkin Avenue, known as Fiorentino Plaza in the 75th Precinct, East New York, which is PPP's territory, and the Ingersoll houses and surrounding areas in the 88th Precinct, Fort Greene, which is associated with FNO. The individuals involved in these activities were reportedly between the ages of 14 and 20 at the time the conspiracies began. The investigation has revealed that several incidents were captured on surveillance cameras, and social media platforms were used by the accused to discuss and boast about their actions. Allegations include 14 separate shootings linked to YPF members, resulting in 14 shooting victims, including 9 individuals who were not involved in gang activities. 4 individuals were fatally injured in these incidents, while others sustained injuries. One notable incident allegedly occurred on October 28, 2020, when FNO members Equin Warlick and Nakai Addison reportedly targeted an individual they believed to be a rival inside a bodega on New Lots Avenue in East New York. During the altercation, 18-year-old college student Sherrod McCoy, who was not affiliated with any gang, was chased and subsequently deleted by Warlick outside the bodega. Addison allegedly took possession of the firearm and returned to the bodega to fire additional shots. Another incident took place on November 22, 2020, when it is alleged that George Risher Jr., Warlick, and at least 2 others traveled to East New York for a birthday party where perceived adversaries were expected to be present. The group allegedly fired at individuals near the venue, resulting in one person being struck in the leg and property damage. The situation escalated as the group pursued their perceived rivals to another location, where multiple shots were fired, resulting in the deletion of 20-year-old Digiona Long, a visitor from Virginia, and injuries to 5 other individuals. On September 21, 2021, another incident allegedly occurred involving FNO members at the Metrotech Mall in downtown Brooklyn. During this event, Giovanni Bennett reportedly fired several shots at a former FNO member who had joined a rival group, Berg Fam. An uninvolved New York University student was struck in the arm during the exchange. The indictments of these gang members mark a significant step in addressing the persistent threat of organized crime and gang violence in New York City. By holding these individuals accountable, law enforcement agencies are working to disrupt the cycle of violence and protect communities from further harm. While these legal actions represent progress, continued vigilance and collaboration between authorities and local communities will be essential in maintaining public safety and preventing future criminal activities.